viewers of YouTube. How you doing? So I'm Paddy. John. We're joined by Reece as well, Reece Campbell.
Hello.
And Claire is coming in as well, just to join
Hello.
us. There's a bit of feedback.
I have no content. I'll just be quiet.
So yeah, again, if this is the first time you're watching, we'll describe a bit about what this is about. It started off, I used to work with John, and we used to come in the office, and once we hit our target, be like, let's just play about and look at cool stuff.
I like how you said once we'd hit our target.
Oh yeah.
Of course. You gotta get that billable rate done, and then you can chill out. And then it was like, let's just do something cool. And so I would show John something that I'd been doing. John would show me stuff. We'd get together and have a bit of a laugh. And we no longer work together. So we started getting up together in the pub. And well, I couldn't get to the pub, and it was just difficult. It was before even lockdown. We decided, let's just do a live stream. Do you know what? Let's just put it on YouTube. So that's where it came from. And so we decided just to talk about what we're doing, work-wise, learning-wise, anything really. And then I'll show John something, he shows me something, or the other way around, or we can get guests on. And that's what we're doing tonight. We've got Reece in. Reece, do you want to do a quick introduction, who you are, what you do?
Yeah, Reece Campbell, hello. I am a CRM, historically at least, CRM developer and consultant nowadays, doing a little bit more on the Power Platform side of things, and also line management, fun and games. But really for me, I love being on the edge of the new features and playing around with what's out there as a consultant. That's been the fun part of things. But more recently, really getting into the DevOps side of things and solutions and the technical elements of delivering. So that's one of the things I've been doing a lot of exploring into recently.
Cool, awesome. So you're in charge now?
Yeah, in charge of a small team. It's growing.
How many people do you manage?
7 people at the moment. So it's three permanent, 4 contractors. So it's the permanent's a small part of it, but yeah, no, it's a nice little learning experience. I've been wanting to do that side of things for a while because I've always enjoyed seeing people flourish. So it's a big part of what I take out of that is growing individuals, seeing them go and do other things and helping them do that. That's why I get involved in the community, left, right, and center as well. I mean, it's one of my favorite things about it all.
Yeah, that's one of the things. That's one of the reasons I wanted to start the kind of Power Apps night classes. Just if you get it's when you get that one person that's so into it and gets it. It's brilliant seeing them run with it. That's awesome. John, do you want to do a quick introduction?
I'm John. I work for a company called CloudCover. We're a SharePoint company. I've been a SharePoint guy for too long now, and I've been trying to get more involved in kind of Power Platform type stuff. I think that's where the focus should be. I tried to help Claire out the other day and I couldn't.
No, you did. You're going to at some point ask me what I learned this week, and I learned a limitation of SharePoint Online because of you. So that's a win.
Yeah. So yeah, been doing SharePoint for a long time, and I think that I want to be more involved in kind of maybe not like first party Dynamics apps, but I'm really keen on model driven apps and Power Apps and all that kind of good stuff. So part of my demo incorporates all of that. So there you go.
Nice one. Cool. Nice one. And so, and I'm Paddy. Been working traditional Dynamics 365 custom engagement CRM background, and again moving more towards Power Platform. I say that, and then all of a sudden I get a big project on my lap that makes me switch over again. So try and focus on something, and then you end up back to that jack of all trades type thing. Angie, lately I've been working on. It's all been design stuff. I've been working on solution design stuff. I've not actually done much building that in a while. I'm just a wee bitsy of build, but it's all been big kind of FRDs and stuff like that, all that jazz, which has been quite good because I'm on a wee course now run by Danny Cahill, who does the conceptual diagrams, and you'll laugh at me because I'm going to try and say solution envisaging because I can't say envisaging. he specialises in all that thing. So it's been quite helpful putting some of the stuff that he's been teaching me into practice. And I've been doing the night classes thing, which has been good because one of my goals this year was presenting and trying to get up to scratch and all that kind of stuff. And worth giving the virtual power group a wee plug at the moment, I think. I think, Claire and Reece, since we've got 3 admins on the call, it'd be rude not to. So that's so I've been working with some of that stuff, which is we're doing an open forum Tuesday next week. That's the
16th.
The 16th. Matt Collins Jones is coming to do a session on the power automation, and we'll chat about it. And then we'll be training the following week. So if you go to what's the URL, Claire?
Virtualpowergroup.co.uk.
Virtualpowergroup.co.uk. You can come along and join them. So
well, for what it's worth, as just a regular punter on the virtual power group, I think it's very good as well.
Thank you.
I am really privileged to be involved in that. Thanks to Claire and Reece for getting me involved.
Yeah.
So since you're here, Claire, do you want to do an introduction?
I'm an interloper who was not actually invited themselves to this event. So carry on about me. It's fine.
Yeah, we're doing something a bit different. If anybody wants to come in, just drop me a DM on LinkedIn.
And then you get in.
So I know who you are, and then you get in.
There's no vetting process. You just get in.
No, you just come in. We'll send you the Zoom call link. Come in, give us your thoughts. Don't do anything too rude. And
I didn't. Yeah, anyway.
Have a few beers with us and broadcast it live. What can go wrong?
What could possibly go wrong with this format? I love it.
Yeah. So on to what we're doing today. So I've spoken about what I've done this week. Have you been doing anything, John?
Well, in my day job, we've been doing some IoT stuff, like to kind of. Nice. We've got lots of companies who want to kind of get back to work and trying to do COVID-19 type risk assessments and stuff like that. So we've been doing some pretty cool stuff. Again, though, like I find myself doing stuff and making SharePoint do stuff that it's maybe not supposed to do, and finding myself continually thinking this should be a model-driven app. And I'm as a kind of a battle right now with me and the rest of the company. I think we've spoken about that before, like about the just because you can do something doesn't mean you should. And but like we've got no other kind of experience with working with model-driven apps or dynamics or anything like that. So obviously everything is going to be focused towards SharePoint and stuff like that. But the more I learn, the more I think, are we doing the right thing? I think like conceptually the things that we're doing are really, really good, and like the stuff that I've been looking at the last week or so has been brilliant. It's really going to help companies get back to being like a lot of it's for like factories and getting people into the building and stuff like that, and it's really good stuff. But whether we're using the right technologies, I'm not entirely convinced. But I mean, got to pay the bills.
We had a good chat about that the other day, John, because I work for a predominantly nav-based company. That's their thing, and a lot of the things I get bullied a bit because I say, I should do that in CRM. That's the way to do it. That's better. And they'll get, no, I do it in nav or do it in Business Central. I'm like, no, come on, do it in CRM. that's where it sits. And we compared it to when you've got a microwave and people imagine people putting cups of tea in the microwave and heating their tea up in the microwave, and they go, Paddy, you're a good expert on tea. What do you think? How should we be making our tea? And you say, you should try one of these kettles. Apparently they're really good at making tea. And they go,
this is apparently the industry standard.
We'll just stick to the microwave. And you go, what? Right, that's absolutely true. Yeah. And you get that everywhere. You get that from clients and internally as well. What about you? You actually had a really good demo that you did, doing some cool power apps. I thought it was awesome.
Yeah, in terms of learning in the last week or so, I've been doing a lot of internal kind of work because crisis and all that work. Actual customer work has been a little bit on the slower side just because of the kind of work we do. So been looking very much internally. We've been focused on internal things, and one of those things is return to work. So we're going back to the office in probably within the next 2 weeks or so. So I work for an Irish-based company, so it's over in Dublin, and I've been looking at helping them out with the Canvas app to track that. So they've got the government requirements of certifying people 3 days before they go into the office. So we're looking to put something in place to allow our employees to actually see the training documents and the guides and sign off that they've read them. So it really is a very, very basic, simple app that easily we should be able to put together in a couple of days that otherwise would have been in spreadsheets or whatever else. So it's bringing value to us straight away. But it is in SharePoint, because as soon as you mention, oh yeah, you know what, this is an app for the next few months as we go back to the office, it would be really nice if we could put it in CDS, and it's like, right, okay, so what's that? Oh yeah, it's €8.40 per person per month for roughly 300 employees. Yeah. No, it's not going to happen.
Exactly.
So it's that license. This is the licensing. I've been doing a lot more on licensing recently as well, because we've been looking into the portal, Power Apps portals, and trying to work out how we can make that work for tenders, because it's often a requirement is portal capabilities, customers interacting. And the portal, when you first read the licensing, it's just it's too expensive for anyone. You read it and it's just like, that's not going to work. I don't understand it, for one thing. And then another thing, you're talking for every time someone logs in, you have to effectively pay for it. So if your model is trying to drive people to your members only portal, that's never going to work. Mm-hmm. I mean, why would I, as a business, try and actively encourage someone to log in every day if I have to pay for them to log in every day? The model doesn't work for certain business sort of things, and that's something I'm learning.
I think the key is it's certain business cases. So
yeah.
If you've got like case management, for example, where not every single member of your database has a case at the same time that all needs to be checked every day. Mm-hmm. Where actually some people need to check some things on occasion, versus everyone's a member, everyone does something outside the system, but then everyone renews on the 28th of Feb. And so therefore you get 4,000 people hitting it every 20 minutes for 1 day a year. That model just doesn't work. So if you've got a kind of fairly consistent sort of even hit rate throughout, I think it's okay. Yeah, it's not pleasant, but it's okay.
That's the thing. If you actually,
B2C, is it?
If you work out the actual costs, and again, depending on your purposes, we looked at one fairly recently where on initial thought, it was like, no, we can't sell that because the portal is ridiculous priced. I mean, it was a partner model, so basically they were selling products and they had distributors across the world that would work with them to sell the products in those countries. And looking at the pricing, it was going to work out to, I mean, initially it looked like thousands and thousands of pounds on a regular basis, but if you break it down to the individual contribution, the individual cost per logged in person on a monthly basis, I think it worked out to something like £20 per person. Now, £20 per salesperson, that could potentially be making you hundreds of pounds.
Yeah,
that's not a bad cost. It's a case of doing the maths and applying it to the business model. As I say, I've worked in the past with membership organizations. It's not a good model for that. I mean, if you're talking about an association or even worse, a not-for-profit, it's just not going to work for that. But yeah, so licensing, I've been spending a bit of time trying to get to grips with and understand. But yeah,
I think understanding Microsoft licensing is almost a career in itself.
Like, it is.
If you understand Microsoft licensing,
there are specialists in it. I mean, I did go to one session once at one of the conferences where there was a licensing expert from Microsoft in there, and it's funny. Some people treat them like gods because they know this thing, and others are like, don't even go near that person because they'll keep talking about it. But I mean, it's so complicated and it evolves all the time. I think Power Platform, they don't help themselves because they've got Dynamics licensing and Power Platform licensing, and yet they keep going on about the fact it's the same thing, and it's not. It's
See if you could, again, maybe you guys have spoken about it before, but see if you could write a bot for that, like using virtual agent. Actually, so if you just owned that, took that, if you're on furlough or something, wrote a bot, understood it, and maintained it, the amount, the respect you would get in the community would be unbelievable. And that's something, I mean, they need to employ somebody to do that. Someone at Microsoft just to do a bot and say, right, there's a licensing bot. Tell them what you need. And
did anyone see the Canvas app that Blair Nisbet built?
Yeah.
Yeah,
I listened
and
to kind of first
it was
few.
sweet. It was. I mean, in fairness, the poor guy is going to have to like potentially update the back end of that, the actual data set that sits on the back of that, every 40 minutes for the rest of the time. But the front end was delightful. It basically went, so I've got a client, they've got X number of people who want to do these things, Y number of people who do that thing, bam, bam, bam. They've got this much capacity requirement and this many databases and something else, and how much that will be.
All right, okay.
And it added it all up on the basis that he'd put all the hard work in the background. And it was just delightful.
Oh, that sounds excellent.
He made the mistake there, though, of releasing that and showing it right before the hackathon. Yep. So when the hackathon came, it was like, you're doing the Canvas app.
You're the Canvas app, mate. Yep, you're hit.
He's on my team.
He won that as well, did he not?
He did. He did a cracking job.
It's a damn good job.
Cracking job. Cool. So let's crack on with the main features. So Reece, do you want to show us yours? Not quite.
It's funny every time, right? It's not just me.
And never gets less funny.
I was like, I'm not going to say it. Nah, do you know what? I've got some cool sound effects on my Stream Deck. I got a Stream Deck a few weeks ago. I'm not going to play them yet, but I'll maybe slip one in.
I need to get one of those.
That's the first thing I did was put some funny sound effects.
Yes, please.
Sat for hours putting icons on them so it looks all flashy.
Nice.
Cool. So let me just get some things set up on here. Talk amongst yourselves while I open a few browsers.
Yeah, I got a feeling we're going to be a wee bit DevOps heavy in this episode.
How DevOps heavy?
I wouldn't worry too much about it. I'm not doing a full-blown demo of pipelines or anything like that. Effectively, what I'm going to be looking at is...
But I'm going to do some DevOps as well, because I've been working on some DevOps. The other side of DevOps, the requirements gathering stuff.
Nice.
So. Paddy, host has disabled the participant screen sharing.
Oh.
What?
Oh.
For the love of Odin, Paddy. You think we'd never done this before?
Try that.
In fairness, he's not let randoms in before.
Yeah.
So he might have been more strict than normal.
I went through all the security things and set them all up. I didn't need passwords before. I have a waiting room before either. But how's that, Reece?
Yep, that's it. Should be sharing now.
No.
At least it's showing a border saying it's sharing, so I'm hoping it is. I don't really know Zoom all that well. Oh, wait. Aha, there we go. There was an extra button to press.
I do that all the time with Zoom as well.
I've been doing too much with live events, Teams live events recently, so that's my excuse, and I'm sticking to it.
Oh yeah, I was kind of wanting to talk about that as well, but we can talk about it later, about what you think about whether actual real life events will come back. But we can talk about it later.
Oh yeah, that is an interesting topic, to be honest. Yeah. So ALM DevOps. So if anyone's ever heard me so far talk about ALM and DevOps, then you'll know I tend to like to start off with ALM and DevOps and what they actually mean, because I personally think that Microsoft uses ALM everywhere without it being quite the same thing. So ALM and DevOps are DevOps is a part of ALM. So ALM is application lifecycle management. It is your requirements gathering of a software solution all the way through from delivery to support and end of life. It's the whole management of the lifecycle of an application, ALM. DevOps is a tiny part of that. DevOps is the delivery phase, essentially. It's the ultimately the nirvana is fully automated, tested, continuous integration, continuous delivery. That's what the DevOps part is. So I always like to just start with that. So especially because ALM is what they talk about all the time. Although that said, especially with this new documentation that's come out. I say new, it's still relatively new, but Microsoft has taken their white papers and they've compiled it into this documentation site now, and it's good. And the thing that I'm noticing with Microsoft these days, especially, is it's evolving very quickly. You really have to keep coming back to the websites, keep having a look at the tools. Don't take it for granted that the thing is going to stand still, because they are continuously evolving all of their tools and their documentation, which is quite a change from the past, I would say. So even this, come back to this documentation site for quite a bit. One thing that it does do quite a lot in this is it talks about the concepts and the high level ideas of application lifecycle management, not necessarily the nuts and bolts of what you do. Now, the more I look into this, the more I realize there's a good reason for that. There's no one DevOps solution. Every single person and every company and every project needs a different way of doing DevOps. You more or less have the same process to an extent, but the nuts and bolts, the scripts, the way you do things, the little quirks, the crazy legacy that you have to bring into it, the modification of workflows, every pipeline, every deployment is slightly different. So that's why I think it's worth keeping in mind that you won't find that many examples out there of one solution. If you're going to go down the ALM DevOps route, which obviously you should do, then you need to get comfortable with the idea of the concepts and apply them as they fit to you. So that's one thing to keep in mind with it, and why there's not a lot that you can really share across the board. But definitely tools-wise, so documentation, absolutely read that. The concepts, the scenarios are actually quite interesting, especially this one. I really like this one. So this is actually a very classic thing. So managed solutions are the way to go. It's very much the norm now for Microsoft to say that. I think everyone just accepts that is the way it has to be now. In the future, I don't know when, but I wouldn't be surprised if it's not that long from now. You will not be able to put a managed solution into a production environment. Now I've not had that as confirmed, but that's my suspicion. It seems to be moving that way, and it would make sense. So you kind of have to get used to managed solutions. They're there and they're not going away. So this one actually just goes through in a fair amount of detail how you would actually make that change if you're working with unmanaged solutions at the moment. So it's worth having a good read through. So yeah, that documentation is good. The other thing, the actual tools used. So if you're I talk about all Azure DevOps. That's my main tool set. There's no reason why you couldn't be using Jenkins and all the other open source tools out there to be doing your builds and continuous integration. But obviously, I'm very much in the Microsoft DevOps side of things. And in that world, there's really two tools you need to know in the DevOps extensions, and that's the Power DevOps tools, which has been recently renamed. So this is the Wael Hamze tools. So they've had a bit of a facelift. These tools are phenomenal. I mean, he's been at this for years, and it has evolved, a lot, to the point. You look down here, so these are all the tasks you can do. Even just a very quick view. I mean, that's his approach is very much you have a tiny task to do a tiny step. So for instance, there's one in here specifically for setting the version of a solution. So it's very much broken down to little breadcrumbs of how you actually build a pipeline. So the one criticism I have of this tool is it's difficult to know what everything's doing unless you've used it already. So it requires a bit of experimentation, but it is a very good tool. It's been there for a long time. A lot of people already use it, and he's definitely keeping up to date. The most recent, if you look at the version history, some of the stuff in here that was quite interesting, I noticed, yeah, there, environment variables. So as of, 4 versions back, he added in environment variables. Environment variables, as I understand, are still not even in general release. So he's added a task to manage that and use it. That is impressive. So definitely worth paying attention to this one. The other one is the official Microsoft tools. So not that long ago, Microsoft have got into the game of this finally. So they've got the Power Platform build tools. One of the biggest criticisms of this for its whole preview release has been the only way to set up a connection to an environment has been username password. That has changed. So again, always pay attention to what's going on, because that was one of the reasons I wasn't using this in quite a lot of pipelines, because I couldn't You can't use username and password for a lot of multi-factor authentication environments, but now they've got the ability to use a generic a service connection using the service principal and client, and that's a classic application user. So in the world of Dynamics CDS, you can set up your application user, which is not a licensed user. It is an Active Directory user that has permissions at a tenant level. And so that's what you actually use in the connections. So that's a new release for a new change for the general availability release.
So
but
just
this tool.
Sorry, it's just as a complete noob here. This is on a marketplace. So this is the Azure DevOps marketplace. So it's had its own marketplace, similar
Yes.
to App Source, etc.
Yeah. So if we go into here. So from Azure DevOps, the quickest way to get to it, some places, is like everything Microsoft, there's many different ways of navigating around, but I found the quickest way is a little shopping basket in the top right. Takes you directly to the marketplace and you can get it from there. So when you're logged in, this will allow you to actually go and find it and add it. So I've already got those ones in there. So if I just go in here, select any old thing, you can get it for free. And then the next step will actually ask you to install it in the solution in your environment. And so you can choose what organization install it, and you can even use it for on-premise. So easy to get these extensions. They're very easy, they're free. And yeah, they're there. So those are the sort of two tools. Without them, you couldn't really be doing quite a lot of this. I mean, technically you can. I mean, again, the SDK has been around forever. A lot of this stuff is all just wrapped around that. But a lot of these two tools are actually wrapping around two specific tools that Microsoft have provided for a long time. So the main one's the solution packager. I mean, that's the tool, the command line tool that Microsoft released years ago. I think 2011, 2012 maybe is one of the first times it came out. And that's always been the way to take a solution zip file and extract it out into the individual XML files. And that allows you to use source control. So without that step, you're not using source control properly. If you're just storing zip files in source control, you're not doing it right, because you can't track changes. The way Git works, you're just basically bloating it. It makes working with it horrendous. So don't do that. But yeah, it just wraps around those tools. So the actual tools that do this have been around for a long time. I think the biggest issue and why a lot of people are talking about it now is that Microsoft are heavily focused on it. They're heavily investing in it. They're using these tools themselves to deliver their own apps. I mean, it was talked about, John mentioned earlier, the first-party apps. Dynamics is a first-party app on the Power Platform. To deliver Dynamics, they're using their own tools now. That was a shift that was maybe 2 years ago, I think it was. But we're really starting to see a lot of that change now. And I think that's also because it's not just CRM anymore. It's the whole Dynamics application suite. So they're all starting to use it. I mean, Power Automate, Canvas apps, most recently as well, Power Virtual Agent has become solution aware. So you can actually you can put Power Virtual Agents into your solutions and deploy. So it's becoming a big part of it. That was
I think that's a kind of similar story in SharePoint in terms of like the SharePoint framework. You know, it used to be with SharePoint, Microsoft would use their tools to build SharePoint and then say, here's some kind of hacky stuff that you developers can do. Whereas now, like, they're building, everything they build is built in the SharePoint framework, and here's how you do it, you know, like, and it's so much nicer, and if you kind of feel more part of it, at least.
Yeah, I think it's been a big part of the shift of Microsoft to open source technology. I think it's a concept that they've really embraced finally. It took a long time, but yeah, they're definitely at the point now where they're comfortable releasing their own tools, and I think that's where a big part of it was being held back.
I also heard that Business Central, if I'm right, have brought a new concept of extensions out, which are essentially the equivalent to solutions.
Oh, really?
So, yeah. It was one of the guys. We've got a Business Central developer and app developer. I was on a course learning all about extensions, and I was asking him about it, and he was saying they just sound exactly like solutions. So it might not be the exact same, because obviously Business Central is on a different infrastructure and everything at the moment, but I can certainly see a shift towards that. If they're starting to use something very similar, you basically, again, you have lockdown extensions and unlocked extensions. If they're going that way and then they're gradually coming into the Power Platform, then I reckon they'll be using solutions in due course.
Yeah, Microsoft have a habit of that as well, of converging tools and platforms. I mean, obviously Dynamics is a good example of that, where there's lots of different applications that are slowly coming into the same, certainly the same branding. Eventually they'll come onto the same infrastructure and they start to converge. The next one that's quite interesting on the ALM side is actually GitHub and Azure DevOps. There's a lot of people talking about GitHub potentially replacing Azure DevOps. I don't think it's ever going to replace it as such. I think the two tools are going to merge. And I don't know which brand they'll stick with. It'll be the same as Lync and Teams, or Lync and Skype and Teams. They've effectively merged them all into Teams, and Teams is now the thing going forward. I don't know where they're going to go with the GitHub versus Azure DevOps. Personally, I've never liked the name Azure DevOps. I just think it's a bit confusing. And GitHub is a very well-recognized brand in code. So I don't know. We'll see. That's going to be an interesting space over the next year or so, I think, because they're really heavily investing in GitHub, bringing a lot of stuff to GitHub. At Build recently, there was some amazing stuff there around code spaces. I don't know if you guys saw that. That was so you could go to a repository in GitHub and start your development directly in the browser. It effectively started up a Visual Studio Code session in your browser so that you could code against that repository directly. I mean, it was
pull requests and everything against that then.
Yep, literally you work off the repository, you can do your branches and everything directly there, so you can work within the browser anywhere. And I mean, it's all contained in there. You get a certain storage space, so you can store your scripts and things in that session. It's one of those things that it's, when you hear about it, it's like, oh, that sounds interesting, but when you see it, it's like, that's amazing.
They'll be doing it within Teams next. There'll be a GitHub app, and you just be able to, within Teams, just edit your code from the repository. Teams
they do. That's part of it.
Nice.
Yeah.
There's actually collaborative coding. So what you do is you can start up a session and you can actually code alongside. So in the same way you can work with a Word document with other people and collaborate and see where their cursor is, you do exactly the same thing in code.
Sounds a bit dangerous, though, doesn't it?
Well, it brings extreme programming to the fore, and I have to say that programming with another programmer, it just makes a lot of sense. It's such a good way to work because you just bounce off of each other. Obviously, it depends on your personalities. Sometimes you bounce physically off of each other.
That was the first thing that came into my head. It depends on the personalities. Like when I worked with Paddy, and like there was a lot of developers around, and some of them I can't imagine that particular dynamic would work well.
Oh yeah, I think there's, well, like everyone, there's different personalities, and I find that developers, I've come across a lot of very strongly held belief kind of people. That's a terrible way of saying it, but basically very strong people, let's say, and yeah, they're difficult to work with. But you know, it's an interesting way of doing things.
Like Skyrim, it's always a bit more fun with other people, isn't it?
Yeah,
jump out, play
absolutely.
After a while, it gets boring, and then you're just like, oh, this is boring. Where am I going to go? And then it's like, oh, I know what I'll do. I'll just introduce these guys to it. We'll do it as a group, and it's better.
Exactly. Everything's better together.
Yeah.
Oh.
Sorry.
Gonna make me cry.
The last thing I actually wanted to cover, and I'd like to come back at some point in next few months when I actually have some demos, because one of the things I'm going to be doing over the next probably few months is actually building out. While I said earlier that you can't do one example to cover all, what I'm going to start doing is looking at the where to start, how to crawl, how to then walk, and how to run. I saw a video recently at MBAS that was talking about that. If you're on your journey with DevOps, then start with the crawling. Start with, I'm not going to export a zip file out of an environment anymore. Put a pipeline in place for that. So that's something I'm building up at the moment. That's actually the environment you're looking at is part of that. So that's coming soon. But one last thing I wanted to talk about that I did learn recently, and I've always innately knew, but I didn't really think about it until it hit me. And it's the solution layering. If we're talking about everyone using managed solutions, which we are, you really have to understand how the layering of solutions affects things. And there are certain things now in the system that actually make that a little easier. I'm just wondering if there's anyone here that I can make use of for it. Yeah, no. So solution layering is, in essence, if you've got multiple solutions that are being imported with the same components, the same entity, the same field, the same flow, the same whatever, then they will be layered on top of each other depending on when that solution was brought in. They stay in that that layer. So if I bring a component in as a base solution initially, and then I bring in a hotfix on top of that with the same entity, let's say the account entity, and then I bring in the next version of the base entity, the base solution where I've made changes to that account entity, it's not going to actually appear in the system. So that hotfix has an older version effectively of the account entity. And until you delete that hotfix, you don't see the changes. So that got me recently where I did something like that, where in the past, we've just brought in solutions, put them on top because, you've got this giant solution with loads of components. You don't want to deploy the whole thing to change a field. So you create another solution, call it a hotfix, change, release, whatever you want to call it, put in one entity, bring that in as a managed solution with the same publisher, not a problem. But then that introduces layering. So in future, if you want to make changes to that same entity, you have to bring it in that top solution or get rid of that solution entirely. So that caught me recently, which was fun and games. You can actually see it in here. So see the solution layerings or layers. So you can actually you can see that in here. It used to only be in the classic interface. Yeah, there you go. So this particular bookable resource first came in with scheduling, then scheduling patch, then dynamic scheduling, and so on and so forth.
So that solution layering is really interesting, I think.
Yeah, I don't understand how every component works with it, because some components don't work well with solutions, as I say, the different layers. So the issue I had was the actual field I was trying to update was a calculated field. So the calculated field, I made a change. It was in the base solution. I brought the base solution across, deployed that. Everything went fine, published, went to the entity, no change. I was like, what's going on? Went back to my my development environment. There was a change there. I'd published everything. I exported the solution again, had a look at the zip file. All the XML was correct. It was the correct calculated field was there. The formula was right. I was like, what else could possibly be doing this? And then I noticed there was a change request. And I looked at the change request. It had that entity in it, had that field in it. I was like, surely that's not going to be the thing. Deleted that solution, and there it was in production. There was my change. So the layering can impact different components differently.
So how had it layered that your change did not affect it? Which one took priority?
The change request.
The change request took priority over the others.
Yes, but the change request was an older thing. So I had made the change in the base solution and deployed that. So the change request was the previous one with the old formula.
Okay.
What I hadn't realized was that had remained above the other one, because in some components, that's not the case. It doesn't work like that in all components. And that's where I think we have to get much better at understanding what those different solution components actually do when you deploy managed solutions and the layering and how that impacts things. Because another one that hit me recently, and obviously this isn't a problem if you're using the correct connectors, but with a flow. So we have flows in different solutions just because it's easier. So there's absolutely no layering with other solutions. But as soon as you deploy that set of flows in a managed solution and you go into the production environment to set up the connections, that's an unmanaged change. So every deployment of that flow again, you have to delete that unmanaged change to then go and reset up the connections, unless you're using the right connectors. If you're using the new connectors for the CDS current environment, you don't have to do that.
Or you're overwriting unmanaged change on deployment, rather than maintaining unmanaged change on deployment.
The default does that now.
The default will try and merge. So it will retain any of those unmanaged changes and therefore keep your layering with that unmanaged change, so you don't have to update it every time. But you can force it.
Yeah, you got to be careful with that as well, though. In that solution for the flows, that would be fine. You still have to go in and obviously change the connections afterwards. I'm just intrigued because I'm sure the default.
I didn't know we are going to have fighting on tonight.
No, well, you didn't know I was
welcome
at that point.
Claire.
Yeah, that's why I invited myself. You've got that upgrade and maintain is the default state.
Mm-hmm.
You can overwrite or maintain.
Yeah,
and then the best one is you can deactivate your top layer. So you can so when you look to your layers there, you've got 1 through 5, you can technically deactivate so that each layer has a state. You can deactivate a state. You can deactivate a layer.
Can you?
And then and then you can just kill the top layer by going in right on top.
Really? That's neat.
Yep.
That is something I'm going to have to look into. So when you're actually doing the import, there's an option on the import to do that.
Well, you can make that change on the specific component. So when you go into those, and in fairness, I've not done it in new, I've only done it in classic. So you can go into your layers, and each layer has a state. You can deactivate the layer, bring in the one that you want to replace to the top, and then you can replace the top layer.
Okay, let's have a quick look. We can do this
Drunk
in 5
Claire
minutes.
now in live edit. This is going to be lols.
Yeah, we can definitely.
What can possibly go wrong?
We can do this in 5 minutes. I guarantee you.
Take as long as
absolutely.
you want.
Like, I mean, this is just as well. I'm definitely getting drunk now. So
I might have to go get another bottle of wine.
A whole bottle for this conversation. All right, so we got ourselves good old test in a new field. This is in our dev.
By the way, I will not be covering layers in too much detail during the intro to solutions section.
No, not an intro to solutions.
I'll be saying,
don't break anyone's brain.
This is what happens when it breaks.
No, this is. I love tests. That's a big part of what I enjoy in what I do. So what I'm going to be doing is a lot more testing of actual solution components and updates and what happens when you do that. And hopefully I'll get around to publishing all that as well, because it would be useful to actually share. All right, so let's go back to here, publish all. Definitely don't have that solution in here. So essentially what we're going to do, we're going to take that as a managed solution across to the build environment, which is what this one is. Then going to go back to dev, make a change and import it and see what happens. Do I need multiple layers? So will I need to create another solution in dev to do that?
Create multiple layers to make that test? No, because technically you'll still always have your deployed managed and your always unmanaged.
Okay, let's come on, stop being so slow. I wonder if it might be worth moving on to another show while I do this in the background, because I'm very, because this could be just a lot of staring at spinning wheels.
So yeah, you got on first. That's great. We're going to go over, aren't we?
How long was it meant to take? No, because I haven't done anything yet.
We don't have a time. We don't have a time where we say, well, for two of us we say about an hour, but we're going to go over an hour.
I was going to say, has it ever taken an hour? The only time I've ever been here, it took like
2.5
hours.
2.5 hours.
So,
do you know what though?
Not to say there's a common denominator, but how long does it normally take?
No, yes, it's about an hour and a half.
Surely it just depends on how much nonsense we're going to talk.
It's not nonsense.
No, I'm saying this is nonsense, Reece. Sorry.
Oh, it is absolutely nonsense.
It's nonsense just now until it makes sense.
I'd say that 2.5 hours, the more people have watched that 2.5 hours, and more people have watched that. Let's see if you look at the average view time on that episode. More people have watched that than anything else I've done on YouTube.
That's mortifying.
Well, maybe it was Claire's influence.
Okay, it could be. Well, it's good tonight. Let's see if we can get this one. Let's see if we can get this one over.
So I feel like I should mention. So obviously, Rory Neary watched it the other week and then brought it up on LinkedIn. He then sent me the funniest message on LinkedIn in the history of all time. So I don't think he's going to be too upset by this because I laughed so much at the time that I almost peed. But he basically went, "Love what you're doing with the adaptive cards," and then went, "It's not a chat-up line." And I was like, that would be the funniest chat-up line in the history of all time if it had been a chat-up line. Just pure, see you and your adaptive cards. Pure, no. No, not a thing. So funny.
I'm glad you adapted to that situation.
Thanks.
Oh, come on.
Thanks, man. Thanks.
Come on, Paddy. Come on. We've had a drink. We've had a drink. Calm down.
All right, so we've got a new solution. We've got the new field in there. We're going to make a change to that in a moment. Let's go and make a silly change such as required. Jeez. One entity, one field, and it's taking that long to import. No wonder people get upset about the idea of continuous integration with this.
It feels because there's some required
That green's
some
just going to roll to the left.
dependency.
Yeah, no, I was glad Rory watched it. I like Rory, and his input's really great, but he slagged off my use of caps lock as well.
I did that as well.
To be fair, deserves to be slagged because tonight you're going to enter caps lock city. Yeah.
Now this is an interesting one. So I don't actually have an app that has that particular entity in it. So the only way I'm thinking what would be the simplest way to see that change without an app, because we don't have the classic in here.
Have you got the custom one?
Yeah, 1 second. Come on. You see, this is what it does now. It goes to the app section and in there it is. Okay, cool. That should do the trick. I'm moving around far too quickly. No, not that one. Nah. Where the hell did it go?
It's me trying to find it.
Oh, for God's sake, never mind. Right at the very end, beginning. So that is in there. So we should be able to see our new entity when it's finished publishing, which it still, I believe, is doing. Oh no, there we go. Published, done. So tests. That's our new entity and new field. Cool. So we have an entity that's in there now. That's coming in manage solution. Go to results. We can go to new test, and we can see that the form obviously doesn't have that field, which is excellent. Great thinking ahead of time. But anyway, I don't think I actually need to worry about that specific thing because we're talking about, so you're saying, Claire, on the import, there's an option.
On the record itself, right? So if you go to the solution layering for that component that's potentially going to cause you an issue, you can deactivate the top layer and then deploy as normal. Okay. Had you deployed something that was already there, you can either deploy and maintain or deploy and overwrite. So absolutely just burn to the ground any unmanaged change that has ever been made to any of the components in your thing, and absolutely take all power for you with what's in that solution, or merge as best you can.
Yeah.
Which is the default position, even though a whole bunch of crap doesn't support merge behavior.
Yes, or it doesn't support it very well at all.
Yeah. Right, so you never quite know what you're going to get with the as normal deployment process.
So that is my other solution, has the same entity, but it has one field, which is the field we're caring about. That is introducing a change to that. So we should see a layer in on the field. Okay. Cool. So I think I should be able to not have to publish this to see that for now. Data Lake Works. What? What the hell is that all about?
You gotta love the new errors you get in the Maker Studio sometimes, don't you?
Data Lake Workspace. Okay, so it's using Data Lake in the background. Very nice.
What do we do? Just wait.
Apparently there's not, unless I have to publish.
Hmm.
I thought I might be able to avoid having to publish because it's just literally been imported, but maybe nowadays you literally have to publish every time you make the change. Yeah, as I was saying, Microsoft changes all the time.
Mm-hmm.
This is probably a very good point to. I'll run something past you now. So just the fact that we're doing this, and again, you spoke about it, John, before. Thinking about when you're learning something, just literally hit go live before you do it. So you could say, like, so I was literally looking at Sales Accelerator, and I was thinking over lunchtime over the next few days, I'm going to learn or start learning Sales Accelerator. And every lunch just hit, maybe not on YouTube, but just hit it and go to one of the stream things and sit and learn. And again, get people to join in like this. Come in. And people would do it to help you when you get stuck. But,
I swear this is one of the best ways.
I definitely think that, you know, the kind of concept of blogging and all that, and blogging your journey of learning something new, and like don't get hysterical that nobody's reading your blog. Like, effectively, that's your study notes. You know what I mean? Like, this is how I learned how to do it. And if someone else gets something from it, then that's amazing. But like, I think that's a good way. Like, what you call it? We spoke before about like Megan Walker doing their 30-day thing. Like that definitely seems to be the best way of kind of getting involved in something. I can imagine. I mean, I don't know how I could justify having 30 days of trying to learn something new and get drunk and do my day job and shout at the kids and
Something's got to give at that point.
Kids.
I'll just get rid of the kids.
I mean, job done.
So I now have two solutions. We've got layers. So now what I'm going to do, so I know I can obliterate unmanaged. If I go in here and make a change to that field directly in the default solution, that I can get rid of. I know that. So what I was saying on this is in the PAM. So if I go back to that field.
Yep.
So what we should see on the other side in my solution. So this is the change that has come through. I should be able to go into my entity, into that field. It's a new field, and we should see managed solutions. Lovely. Default solution. There we go. So many things in there, and that's hardly even any entities. Come on. PAM, new field. All right, so there's my new field. So the latest change came in, changed it to business required. So that's the new layer with the CR. If I was to go and delete that CR, that would go back. I get that. Now, if we go back to the original, so we're in dev, we're on test, we're going to that same field, new field. What can we change? I don't want to change it. Well, I suppose I can change it to recommended. That would be one option.
Change it to like 4 billion characters.
Yeah, let's do that. 4 billion. What is max length for text? It'll be pretty 4,000. Yeah. So 4 giant thousand. Do that. Save entity. So this is in the original solution. So this is the base solution now.
So what we want to do is take that original thing and smash out your customization.
Yes.
That hotfix.
Which is a managed solution.
The person who hotfixes not in a patch deserves to be smashed.
We will get onto patches another time. Apparently Microsoft are saying don't use patches. There's a good reason for that. It actually does complicate the process.
Well, actually, it was going to be my question around how on earth what would best practice be if I was automating deployment and I wanted to make a small fix? It would be, I assume, to merge that small fix into my entire code base and allow my pipeline to manage what is different in my entire code base to my target, not for me to go, I've changed 3 things, Hen, I promise. I promise it's only 3 things. I'm just going to deploy this wee tiny wee bit and hope that it doesn't break. Assume that it will be able to resolve that for me.
This one actually is a good video to watch around that. It's a 90-minute video that goes into practices and actually talks about the hotfix and how you would deal with that with branching.
Cool.
And actually, it's a really good example of how you would go about doing it with a full ALM DevOps pipeline in place. This one's actually a difficult one to find. I've never managed to actually search for this. I've only got the link and I have to keep going back to it. But effectively, it was in Embas and it was this Greg Barker.
Cool.
But it really is a very good video around about a part of the way, and there's a really good diagram on exactly that. It still doesn't go into the specifics as such, but it does. Yeah, that's where I got the crawl, walk, run. So that's actually quite I like the way he's doing this. It's straightforward to look at there. But
cool.
Somewhere in there is that diagram that starts talking about the solution layering of different solutions. I think it is about 9. Yeah, there, clone. He does talk a little bit about that, but yeah, definitely worth watching that video.
Yeah, cool.
You share these links with.
Yeah, I've got a
whole
bunch of them there. I'll send them to you afterwards. All right, let's go see where we are with that. What just happened there? Stop sharing. Lovely. Okay, so we've published that in dev. We've got a difference. That's 4,000 characters in there. So we now export this. I'm going to go ahead, new version. Oh, I hate that thing there. Ah, excellent. Move it entirely away. Okay. So back in build, we've got Palm version 1.001. So now if we go and import our new managed solution, which is that one, so 1002.
Right.
So now this is where it gets interesting because we get different options.
Yeah. So this is the challenge, right? So see if you scroll down, you've got that button at the bottom, right? So that overwrite component will smash what's ever on that top layer. Doesn't matter what's in that top layer. It'll just take it out.
That's it's not. So that's only unmanaged. So this isn't managed. So this won't change the managed layering. So even if I do that right now, it will. I publish, I'll still see only 100 characters for this field.
Okay.
So we currently have in the system, we have the base solution, which has the field in there. It's currently set at not business required. We have the change solution, which has come in and changed it to business required. So that's that Palm change one, which is a managed solution.
Mm-hmm.
I'm now just trying to import a second version of the base solution, which has increased the character limit to 4,000. So what I would expect to see is that it will remain as
but underneath.
Yeah, so it'll update that lower layer, but it will stay at 100 characters, not go up to the 4,000.
Yep.
Even if I do this overwrite. So if I try that. So what is going to be interesting after this is then removing that change, and we should see it go to the 4,000. But yeah, that field, that tick box for the flows definitely would get rid of that. So it would save me a step deploying my flow. I always forget that's even there because it's one of those things I just never use. Yeah, it's also scary because you never know what that's going to then change, especially in a customer production environment where someone goes in and makes changes on their own. All right, so that's imported successfully. Go publish that. Back over to solutions, we should see, yep, there's the new version.
Uh-oh.
Okay, that's interesting. So there's an uninstall currently running.
Yeah, we'll take one out and put two in.
That's interesting. Solution history.
You people and your solutions.
I know.
All just cause problems.
And then the comedy that is when one can't come out because two's going in because your in between exists.
Yeah, there we go. So there's the uninstall, which has been done. Yeah, this is
two. That's version 2 going in, John. Before one can come out. So it will always try and put the new thing in.
Give me the heebie-jeebies. Before
it will take one away, because it can't take one away if 2 doesn't go in successfully. So it has to complete that before it can take that one out. And then sometimes that part will fail, and you're left with 2, and you're like, how's that helpful?
You know what? I have to say though, the tools that they give us for this now are immensely. I mean, they're so much more useful than they used to be. We never used to have this history. We never used to know the solution layering.
We just had to guess.
I think that happened.
Some stuff has happened.
One of the worst ones for that is the portal, Dynamics portal. When it first came in, when you deployed it, it installed 15 solutions, and every single one of those obviously goes in a specific order. If you wait a few months and you get a few of those regular updates, so the solutions have been updated, they're no longer in the same order as they were originally installed. So you can't uninstall them in the same order, and they have to be uninstalled. And that was painful. That was painful. Right. Anyway, so we've now brought that in. We've still got version 2. Come into here, not into there. I need my default solution, which was there. So this is the default solution. New field, and there it is. So 100 characters, and we should see the solution layers still showing 1 and 2. Yeah, there we go. So the last thing would be, can I roll it back from here? No. So that's one thing that's worth noting. In some layers, you can roll it back from this place. So workflows, you can do it with that. On unmanaged, sorry, that's a good point on unmanaged. But I can go over to the change, and now I can delete this. So bye-bye change, provided obviously you have all those entities and attributes in a different solution, and they're the same publisher. Don't change your publishers. No. That's an interesting one as a partner. So this is maybe a question for after a while we're waiting. When you're deploying a solution to a customer, do you always use a partner prefix or a customer prefix?
That's the one.
Partner.
I always use a partner here. I've never even considered that until you said that.
So when you start to take over other partners' work or realize that you will get booted off at some point or maybe shift or whatever, you start to think, well, what happens with the future ones? And because we've had it where we've taken over from partner previously where we've had to do things under their prefix because they went in as a supplier prefix. And I never really thought about it before, but I suppose that, yeah, it depends on what you're doing with the...
Root words from a prefix. Root full letter words as my prefix and go... No, obviously. I've never even considered that. I've always, first thing, I always create a
there she is. Publisher. 4,000 characters.
4,000 and business required. So that's actually really good. So this is an issue I found was with the layering, and because I'd forgotten that was the case. So that was a pain in the arse when I realized that. But it does show that if you do have an environment that has a hell of a lot of these, let's call them patch solutions, even though they're not patches, they're hot fixes, the change requests that people have used in the past, the small deliveries of change, you can get rid of them. Provided your base solution has incorporated those changes, you can get rid of them and you're not going to break things. It's obviously worth testing that in a clone because you don't know what components necessarily that will impact, but it definitely can be done to get rid of these things. So that's one of the issues I've seen people talking about with adoption of DevOps with legacy Dynamics implementation, especially. You get that, years of changes, that just happens. But you can tidy them up to the point that you end up with one solution, maybe 2, and the DevOps process becomes easier. Anyway, I've talked enough about that.
I love how Reece said, give us a caveat, says, I'm not going to go deep on DevOps.
I mean, my
Claire
brain's
asked the question.
As his developer brain took over and just went, I'm going to deep dive on solution layers.
I told you, I like experimentation.
My description of deep is different from everyone else's. Cool.
I was like, no, it's not going to be DevOps deep. No way. I'm just going to do a free rerun through and show you a few things. You know what? Let's do it live. Let's start deleting layers here and everywhere.
I'd like to say that was successful. It wasn't 5 minutes, but it was successful.
Thank you very much. Like, I mean, I definitely need to understand solutions more.
Paddy, where on earth would John learn such a thing?
Well, there's this group in Scotland, but it's based in Scotland. It's got Scottish admins, but it's open to everybody. And there's this guy who does these Power Apps Nights courses, and come along. The next session is on solution management.
What are the chances? Who'd have thunk it?
Do you know? I wish I had a button on my Stream Deck for that for our voiceover, Claire. That would be cute.
That would be so cool.
Well,
I'm going to try and find it.
I need to get a damn Stream Deck.
It was Ryan McLean that recommended to me actually to get a Stream Deck. I've started used it. I'm breaking it in easy. I've not really used it much. I used it in my last stream just for flicking screens over and stuff. But they're fiddly. You can do loads with them. Like not just there's a tool called what's it called? Active Hotkeys or Windows Active Hotkeys. So you basically and it's got like a script or a script writer that comes with it as an add-on. And you run the script writer and you do a spell like programming. You used to do like the RPA things. You just run through, click those things. It writes a script for you in this language called Advanced Auto-Key or Advanced Hotkey, whatever. And you put that as your tab on your screen deck. It means you can do anything automated on your desktop and run keystrokes and everything. And you just put it off it goes and does it. It's like kind of macro stuff. It's wicked. So you can essentially do everything from your Stream Deck.
Cool. There's actually it's not the Stream Deck, but there's a tool that again on Build people were talking about, the Microsoft Power Tools. I've heard about stuff like this in the past, but it's phenomenal what you could do with it. The main thing, the really cool thing is actually the different zones on your screen. So you know how if you hold the Windows key and use the direction key, you can layer your windows in different ways. With fancy zones, which is a feature of the Power the Power Tools. Power Toys, sorry. You can actually set those zones up however you want. So you can layer them in all sorts of different ways. You can have 3 columns on your screen if you want, maybe 5, however you want it. Definitely worth looking at the Power Toys.
Just the name has got me sold.
Exactly, it's part of the Power Platform straight away.
Oh, of course. Yeah, that's what I was thinking about.
Okay.
Anywho.
Next. So, John. Do you want to show us yours?
Fuck yeah.
Invite it back.
I'm going to make this. I actually going to have to go to the loo in a minute.
Jesus. I mean, you're going to miss this. This is going to be fucking gold, mate. Gold.
Don't say fuck or bugger.
Oh, yeah, that's the thing.
What is it?
Don't say fuck or
We're
bugger.
on the internet, John.
We're live.
Fuck 'em.
See, that's what you need on your Stream Deck, a beep.
And that's what I need, yeah.
What's the worst that can happen?
Is anyone sensitive watching? Pardon?
It's 20 to 11 on a Friday night. Like, come on.
No, we're over an hour already.
Right, okay. So, what am I doing? Should do... What? I do this guy. Can we see this?
Yep.
Yeah.
So what I decided to do was to like build this kind of demo environment just for me to mess around and put stuff in. And every time you go to a customer and they say, oh, like, what can I do with SharePoint? And I'm like, you can do whatever you want. And so I was trying to put together this kind of fake company and say, okay, this is what this fake company does with their kind of SharePoint and kind of Microsoft 365 type environments. So I've made a company called C3 Digital Music. This is their SharePoint communication site, which is effectively their intranet. When you're kind of talking to people, and I know some of this might be kind of simple for people who are watching and stuff like that, but I wanted to try and keep it simple, but like show the kind of benefits to people using simple SharePoint or simple Microsoft 365, simple Power Automate type stuff. So you can see here, this is their intranet. You've got their news here where we've got like communicating value. Brown Bear there has got a new release. You should go and listen to it. He's amazing. And trying to incorporate like the different parts of like Office 365 or Microsoft 365, however it's branded this week. Like we've got Stream here. We've got Dear Mama by this wonderful Glasgow singer-songwriter. You can buy it on iTunes or wherever you want. All the money goes to Alzheimer's Scotland because he's a lovely person. So we've got the videos for people who in the company can go and review the videos, like the videos, say this is the one that we want, and then that could be the release. Then we've got like just general SharePoint lists. We've got a list of artists who are part of their repertoire. We've got Paddy Byrne here, who's an agent. Well done, Paddy. You're in. But along here, we've got me and our Carly here. We are signed. Brown Bear right now is just a prospect. So I've got a wee Power Automate. Oh no, the other thing I was going to show. Let's move this out of the way. There's a guy called Chris Kent. He's an amazing SharePoint guy. And there's this Git repository about SharePoint list formatting. So you can take a SharePoint list and try and make it a bit nicer because like people don't like the SharePoint list as it is. So you can say, okay, we want to have these wee cards.
Is this something that'd be externally facing, John, like an external portal?
No, this would be your kind of internal. Can you believe it that that's not working after all we've been through? Paddy, I showed you this the other day and it worked.
It's because I got bored listening to me.
Let's see if it works in Teams, and we can come back to the. Oh, not cancel that. No, so apparently you can't do that. So we've got our list of artists here, and we've got our within Teams. What happened to my Teams? Within Teams, we've got our finance department who can view their Business Central within their Teams. Again, like this is all kind of straightforward type stuff, but I just wanted to have a kind of encompassed environment that I could show to clients and say, like, you can have Teams and you can have SharePoint, you can have Business Central, you can have a model-driven app, and all it kind of hangs together really well. So we've got Brown Bear here. Me and our Carly are signed. Brown Bear's just a prospect right now. So we say, okay, we're going to tell Brown Bear, that he's now a confirmed artist. And at the moment, you can see only me and Carly are confirmed. This Zoom window. So yeah, so then we've got a wee flow that says, right, the A&R guy has confirmed that Brown Bear's now a bona fide part of our organization, and that goes away, creates them in the model-driven app. So then the way, the way I imagine it is that the model-driven app would be used by like office staff to organize meetings and organize to manage any email and all that kind of stuff when the A&R guy has signed them. And I'm sure any minute now, there he is, Brown Bear. He can go in here and you've got the general model-driven app type stuff. The other thing it does is it goes away and creates them as a vendor in Business Central, so that whenever they need paid, there it is, we have Brown Bear. Whenever it needs paid, he can just send his email or send his invoice, and he gets paid his royalties or whatever. So I can't believe my nice wee part of it didn't work.
I think just the appearing Business Central is
No,
so good.
So what this let's see. What you can do here is you can put in JSON that what do you call it? Kind of stylizes the list the way that you want it. There's a guy, Chris Kent. He's got samples here. I mean, this Git repo has been going for a number of years now, but you can take a SharePoint list row and format it however you want. I can't even remember the one now. Let's look at the contact card. So you can take that and format it so that this effectively is a SharePoint list row, but just formatted in a nicer way. And as you can see here, it's got the same options that you would have to like edit it or delete it or share it, just the same way that as you would using the kind of 3 wee dots and share and edit and open and stuff like that. But I'm so gutted. I can't believe it.
See, that kind of things I find crucial when you're demoing. So you've got the grasp already of model-driven apps, admin, office use. That's brilliant. Yep. But see that I find now that's the invaluable bit. She's showing it in Teams, which you're familiar with, and then just showing how it links together.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. So we've got our A&R team here, and they can view their artists and do all the stuff that they need to do when they're managing their part of it. So we've got a wee document library here as well that gets created, that creates a Brown Bear sales predictions, contract, all that kind of stuff that you would need when you are bringing in a new artist. Or like if you're looking at it for your company's point of view, bringing it in a new project. So you want these documents to be created for you, to be filled in, or whatever, like anything that you need can be created there, populated by that wee flow that says this guy is now part of us, or this project has changed from being a prospect to a what's the term in Dynamics, like an opportunity to whatever. And when that happens, we need all of these documents to be created, to be filled in, and that all gets saved in SharePoint. And like I said, we've got our these videos that are uploaded to stream, but surfaced within the context of SharePoint. Down here, if you want to view it, you play it, and there's me looking handsome. But like, I think that's important to show companies like that, and I think it's important for people who are traditionally SharePoint people, or traditionally this is what I do. Like it's not like that anymore. Like this is all becoming like smaller, bigger, but like all encompassed in the same kind of ecosystem, if you like. And I think that's really important, and I love it.
Well, I think that's why this session is so awesome, because I think you're both spot on. I think that's exactly why these kind of conversations are so important, because there's so much we can learn from one another, because what each other is and has always been doing is now so close to what we need to be doing that we need to learn from each other.
At least the visibility of it. I mean, we need to. At least I know that can happen in SharePoint now.
Yeah,
exactly. And I know that I'm really going to try and make this work, man.
Yeah, try and get it to work. So I'm really keen to see it working. I'm going to go get more wine. But I'm more keen to see wine than I am to see it working. But I really want to see it working.
As well, you should be.
It's quite interesting. The boundaries are disappearing in some ways.
Absolutely, that's it.
Yeah. Well, I think the bit for me is that it's more about actually thinking about where people will work. So it's all well and good saying, well, I can do this Dynamics thing and I can let finance know that something has happened. But actually, if they don't spend that much time in email, then notifying them in email doesn't really work anymore.
Mm-hmm.
If I can't, based on security policy or limitations of the external product or whatever it is, if I can't go straight to their system, then what is the best place for me to notify them of a change or to ask them for input to be able to process that?
Mm-hmm. Absolutely.
Teams is a great place to do that because it's a normal sort of middle ground. It's a sort of hub. It's the heart of that wheel from which all those spokes come out.
Definitely, and team, like, I think the way that Microsoft are positioning Teams is that will be your single pane of glass when you go in the morning.
It's the heart of the wheel.
Aye, you go in there and you can access you go there and everything that you need to do for your day-to-day job is accessible from there.
And I think that becomes key. So actually being able to go, you're going to have a meeting, your meeting's going to have actions, your actions then sit there. Once you've done your actions, it should go back to your app. You don't need to do any of those things. You shouldn't have to move. You should be able to just have your meeting, make your decisions, put the input in, and then Power Automate should do the rest.
Exactly.
It's the facilitator between the systems because you're not, Outlook's not likely to disappear anytime soon. SharePoint's not going to disappear. Power Platform is not disappearing. They're all getting integrated within Teams because Teams is where you're going to be going. So it replaces the intranet. So the old concept of an intranet is really becoming more of a portal, and the window in that portal is Teams.
Yep. Like we've been what do you call it? Looking at I should have maybe done that. Like you can now incorporate your SharePoint intranet, if you like, as a Teams app. So like it appears here, so you can go there and get all your company policies and holidays and all that kind of stuff, all again from within the context of Teams.
Mm-hmm.
Like the way that the tabs of Teams integrate with SharePoint lists and libraries is so seamless. It's like, apart from when it doesn't work, like that's
one time.
I seen it the other day.
You did, Paddy, and it worked.
Did you take pictures, Paddy, next to a newspaper with a date on it?
We should have just recorded it. Just to find it.
No, it's not one. Yeah, so let's try it one more time, shall we? Come on.
Well, bring up the console, the developer console, because it might actually just be an edit, some weird.
I don't think that the viewers need another live.
Oh, but that's the best one.
SharePoint Dev.
Come on, what's going on? That's not what I want.
Oh, there's a problem. You need to update Google.
What's it?
Yeah, she browsed
it.
At least it's happening live to thousands of viewers.
Yeah, literally millions around the world. Anyway, it doesn't really matter.
Four viewers right now.
This is roughly how it looked. I made it look a bit better, to be fair.
Oh wow, is that embossing? That is embossing. Nice.
Beautiful. It's like we're in 1998.
I was just looking at that's GeoCities time.
But like the concept of being able to take that kind of general.
Sorry, that guy's thumbs. Your thumbs consultant.
Yeah.
Isaac, you're a legend.
Come on, Isaac. But to be able to take that kind of generic SharePoint list view and make it look a bit nicer, because I mean a lot of people like hate SharePoint, and a lot of it is they hate the way it looks or the way it does And so to be able to do that is, I think, I mean, I really do love SharePoint. I think SharePoint's amazing. And so this is going to be my, anytime we do this from now on, Paddy, and anything cool I've done, I'm going to put it in here. And so C3 Digital Music will evolve and grow into something beautiful.
Again, like Claire says, that's the important thing, is to see what other kind of, I don't know what the word is, but other masters of other craft are doing and learning from it, because we can take this from what you've seen. I mean, you're in quite a good position because you're one of the early adopters now of the Power Platform and CDS and model-driven apps. And now from our side, there's not a lot of Dynamics guys or CDS guys that know a bit about SharePoint. And so that's why we're trying to find out from you, because, I mean, career-wise, we're functional consultants, essentially. Reece is your developer, Flash consultant. The next stage up, if we want to, is architect. And to be a good architect, we need to know about these other technologies and what they do. So I think
and one of the things that I think that is important when I go to speak to a customer is to like get an understanding of their business process, and then try and because it there's like companies who would benefit from understanding how to use Microsoft To Do, and that, give them that as a kind of a wee insight, and then say, like, phase 2 is we're going to make that easier. We're going to automate this. Because they're so terrified of like major change. If you can give them this wee nugget that makes one task easier, then it builds a bit of trust. Like, they trust that what you're saying isn't going to like change their career and sack people, and like it's just going to make their job a wee bit easier day by day. And I think that's generally what my job is to go and try and make their job a wee bit easier.
I would also say on the other side of that coin is actually if these people have a business process that would actually be best suited by adopting Teams and SharePoint and Power Apps in this particular scenario, and you as a Dynamics consultant go, here's Dynamics, right? And you go, well, you've only spent a third of the money that you would have spent on all three products, but we've actually only solved 1/3 of the problem. You've not made anything better.
100%.
You've made 2/3 of a process possibly more difficult.
And
so
that's
actually being able to communicate and go, no, what you actually need is all three of these products used well, properly adopted with change management and all of the other good stuff that comes right about. And it's going to be expensive up front, but you will get the benefit if you have all of it. You'll probably not get the benefit if you just pay us the 1/3 for this one bit.
Yep, definitely. But by the same token, like, I think that if you can, like, if you've got an overall understanding of all the products that they've already paid for, and say, like, this is the best solution for you, and then if the best solution for them is to spend more money, then, like, I'm quite happy to say that as well, like, and I try, like I said, I try and build that kind of trust that what I'm saying isn't so that you spend more money, or it is genuinely that this is the best solution. And that's why I'm kind of becoming uncomfortable telling people that the best solution is what my company is trying to sell them, when I don't think it is at times. Because at times I think this is like proper, like, model-driven app. This is where that data should be. We can make it happen in SharePoint, but we have to manage all the relationships, all the different lists, and try and make them kind of hang together. And that's not what SharePoint's supposed to do. So we're just building up. There's a phrase, did you know use it before, about we're building up. We're building up.
Technical debt.
That's exactly it. We're building that up. Like somebody's got to pay the piper. Like further down the line. And so like I'm definitely having proper existential battles with myself. But yeah, that's me done.
I thought the Business Central integration as well was cracking.
That's phenomenal.
That's this is the bit that got me.
How easy that looks is just amazing.
Yeah, I've never actually even seen Business Central, so that was even just nice for that flash to see it. And the fact that it's
looks good now. Yeah, looks cracking.
There you go. And like, there is no real integration with Teams and Business Central. All this is a website tab with the URL of Business Central.
So it's not the app.
You're authenticating within the window based on the fact that you're authenticated within Teams.
Exactly. And
nice.
It will make you authenticate within the Teams window more than general Teams tabs.
Aye.
Mm-hmm.
So what did you use for the integration of John? Did you use the out-of-box connector? Did you use
for this here?
For the
within the Power Automate?
Yeah, did you not for the
all right, okay, for the Power Automate, it was, I don't really know, mate. I just make it up as I go along. Here we go, confirm artist sign.
Oh my god, they're not in solutions.
No, that's exactly what I said.
That's because he hasn't been to the training session yet.
Thank God he's in my flows.
What are they?
Really brought my wine glass.
Fuck your solutions. So I do for a selected item. So when we go here, a selected item, click on here, and it will say confirm. So that for the item that you've selected here, I don't know where I'm pointing because you can't see that, but I get the item. So that means I've got all of the details of that SharePoint list item. Then I go away and say if he's a prospect, then go away, create a record in Business Central, create a record in CDS, and then update that artist with the Business Central ID and the D365 ID so that you can then keep track of everything.
So as a big goofy loser, right, how do you create that? Do you create that from within the SharePoint list?
This
or
flow?
Do you just, or do you create it here?
No, I go to
based
flow.
On the site address?
Yep, based on the site address.
And that's enough to make it appear in that site?
Yep.
That's so fun. It's not how it works for us.
But yeah, I kind of feel that, like we spoke about earlier in the week, Claire, about the limitations. Like, I can kind of accept them because, like, it's fucking hard to do things. You know what I mean? Like, when you think about like how difficult this would have been to do 5 years ago. So like the weird limitations that I come up against, I think, right, okay, like this would have been a 6-month project 5 years ago. And I've done it in 20 minutes. You know what I mean? So like I can kind of
that's a hard one for the uninitiated. If you're trying to, that's one of the issues with something like the Power Platform and Power Automate. When you start showing people how easy it is to do things in here, people are like, "Oh, great! So can we do this?" And then you're like, "Oh, but that's not included. So for that's actual custom development. So that's going to be the 6 months we were just talking about." And they're like, "What? But it's a bit of a double-edged sword.
It's just fucking Lego."
Aye, but it's that whole thing where it's like, it's no code when you use a template. But literally the second you step out of the template, it's everything. It's not no code, it's not low code, it's nothing anymore. It's just like it's just normal.
This is something that we're building specifically for you.
Yeah.
But that said, Power Automate can cover a hell of a lot of
Exactly.
contexts and ideas now. And I mean, it's changing all the time. The last count I saw for connectors, 349 connectors.
Nice.
Incredible, man.
Yeah,
Incredible.
300, that was months ago, so.
Yeah, because the Center of Excellence solution that they provide actually pulls out the number of connectors available to the platform. And I ran that a couple of weeks ago for one of the App in a Days that we ran, and it was showing 349 connectors. Now, obviously, some of those will be duplicate type things like the stupid CDS connector and the Dynamics one. The very fact that we have 3 bloody connectors for the same platform. There will be others like that.
But see, I kind of, again, like I feel like I'm very forgiving with the fact that there's 3 connectors for the same thing, because like everything's moving so quickly and everybody's just trying to find like what is the best here? What are we, like, I don't know, try to find our feet almost, like what we try to do here. All right. And then you've got a team of people over here who think this is the best, and then a team of people over here who are wanting to do it their way. I can just imagine the battles that go on. You know what I mean?
Yeah, that's
like,
the thing, especially
when effectively all we want to do is fucking build Lego.
But that's it. I mean, it's especially Microsoft, the way it works. It's I imagine certainly internally there's a hell of a lot of teams fighting to do a lot of stuff. I mean, I've done some support tickets with them, and they had to bring in SharePoint and Power Platform guys at the same time, and apparently that became quite a political argument. And that's just 2 platforms. That's not taking into consideration all the other connectors. But one thing I really wish they would do in the Power Automate space is a better management of those connectors. Like the Dynamics connector, no one should be using that. That's essentially dead, but it's not made clear that that's the case. And if you are new to it, you're going to go in and you're going to say, I'm going to add a connection to Dynamics. There it is. Excellent. Yeah. But you should never be using that.
Yeah.
And then you're like, and then you find out, there's a CDS one. Okay, I'll use that. And the first one that comes up is always the old one. So it's little things like that that really annoy me, because.
And you still have to use the old one because it's because for the selected record to run an on-demand flow, you need to use the old one.
Is that so? Oh, yeah. Jesus.
Yeah, no.
So it's not as if it's
use cases for both. Yeah. And then sometimes you'll have a combination of the 2, where you've got to use the newer one for the trigger, but then some of the other ones you've got to have the other one in the actions. There's nobody to tell you that. You just have to figure it out.
No, that's unfortunately where it's difficult for someone new to come in, and it's very easy to do it wrong, because you'll just use the first thing you find, and you won't know unless suddenly something goes wrong or someone tells you, that's not the best way to do it. But then I don't have a better solution for it. I don't know how you do that with something that changes as quickly.
There was an online community forum that would provide training and support for people.
You mean the user group?
Where potentially this coming Tuesday we would have an expert talking about Power Automate.
When is what day is that? What time?
I think it might be the 16th, Paddy.
8 p.m.
8 p.m. Yep.
That's the perfect time for families. Because all the families are put to bed. You're in chill out mode. You can chill out to bed.
That's the one.
Whoever runs this group,
they are so geniuses.
Now we're just being indulgent.
Yeah, we are. Yeah. John's just wandered off.
Yeah, he's just left. That's it.
So we said it wasn't going to be 2.5 hours.
I had to go for
we're going to be 2.5 hours. I'm afraid. We're at an hour and a half.
Hour and a half, yeah.
Actually, not that
time.
Bad.
Yeah, that's great time.
Not too bad. Well, the thing, there's 4 people on as well, you know.
And Claire and I hijacked it for about an hour, so.
But we learned, Reece, and that's what's key.
That is true.
It's good fun, and hopefully other people will learn too. So if you're watching,
please let us know.
Learn something. Please let us know.
Oh, we got another watcher.
Talking.
Oh, it's just gone up.
6.
It went from 6. What? Ooh,
Jesus! They must have heard I was on. No, they're going to be disappointed.
That was awesome.
Right.
Now I'm going to disappoint them.
I need to go and get more beer. Can I run away?
Let's go. Yeah. While Joe's doing that, is there anything? What have you been working, Claire? You're not one of the guests tonight, but
What have I been working on?
What you've been doing?
I'm not sure I'm allowed to talk about it, but
No, don't talk. No.
basically, I am on a large-scale rapid response COVID-related shenanigans,
Oh, cool.
and it is a lot.
Awesome.
Hence my drinking.
You're doing deployments tonight, aren't you?
Well, it wasn't even my project.
Oh,
it was a bunch of people on my team who each had a handful of deployments just to get done, so that we knew that we were coming in on Monday to smoke test and run through the week, rather than waiting to Monday morning and not necessarily know what we're up against. So we just hung about a wee bit later tonight and actually just had a couple of glasses of wine and gabs while we were all doing it, rather than bailing out.
That's nice. That's a good way to deploy.
Yeah. No pressure, no drama, no stress. Just let's get it done now. Let's actually just sort of troubleshoot any issues together, and then that way Monday morning we all come into a deployed solution and we work forward from there.
Awesome.
Dinner over Teams. Can't argue with that.
Yeah, you can't beat one of the see the deployments. I mean, that's the thing. See the deployments where you're in the thick of it. Get some pizza in. I mean, and this is from an office thing. Get some pizza and a few drinks and just get them done.
It doesn't make it go any faster. It doesn't make it go any slower. But it's better than sitting about watching that stupid green loading wheel on your own.
You've got support.
Yeah, and that's the key. It's having someone else to bounce those issues off of. So we were talking about environment variables earlier on. We're deploying a solution full of those and hit the world's weirdest error. Right, so we got
let's deep dive.
Right, so we got an unknown error on import. Right,
lovely.
There was no error message, no support, no guidelines, no nothing, no log file. Just couldn't get far enough to get an error off it. The short version of the solution was, that so you've got your environment variable definition at the top level, and then you've got your environment variable value that sort of hangs off the bottom of it to give you your current value. That says explicitly, take this out of the solution.
Yep.
If you leave that in the solution, it goes in just fine. I love Microsoft so much.
To be fair, environment variables are still in preview, are they not? So
they are.
And there have been some serious solution issues with them.
Well, the thing was, right, we then did all the Googling. No one had any issues at all that we could find.
I honestly think a lot of people have been avoiding it.
Astounding. Yeah.
Because when I first used it, I found out about it, and then basically 2 weeks after, I was like, I'm going to use this because it's there. And I thought it's a fairly low risk thing, because what I was doing was sticking into a flow. So in terms of the CRM and the solution, I thought, not going to be a problem. I will just put it in as a totally different, distinct solution. They're self-contained, and that was all well and good. And then I deployed it, and that was fine. And then I decided to deploy an update, and it would not work. And then I couldn't delete it, because when they first went in, you could not remove them. There was an error that came up. I think they've since fixed that, but they're absolutely not ready for production. I'm so scared of them now. There's nothing worse than that. And you talked about it before, Claire, that solution that just hangs about that you can't get rid of because something happened.
That uninstall step feeling is the scariest thing in the universe. See, seeing two of them in one place. There's nothing more terrifying in the universe. Like, that's not meant to be there. That should be gone. Why are you still there?
Yep.
Terrifying.
Yeah.
I just tried to fix my problem and I still couldn't do it. No. It's actually boiling my piss.
I like the delay there. That's good.
I was trying to think of a more appropriate word, and I was just like, nah.
Well, I'll show you mine.
Sorry, should we have asked?
Say something really.
Yours
mine isn't going to be as long as yours. It's not going to be a deep dive or anything. I'm going to let myself down now. I'll give you a bit of context.
Just do your best, champ.
So a bit of context. It's on Azure DevOps. I've been looking at DevOps quite a lot recently. Well, actually, even before that, so kind of over just about a year ago, when I started actively learning and stuff again and started getting into this rather than just doing a day job, I realised that it wasn't just having to do technical learning. I had to learn to be. I want to be the best consultant I can be, and nail all that kind of business analyst stuff as well as all the technical stuff. And it's hard to get that balance. So I've been studying a lot of user story mappings. I've been doing a lot of the stuff with Neil, like following Neil Benson's stuff, and doing like Scrum. Done his Scrum for Dynamics course, which is excellent, and just getting involved in all that stuff because as the company grows as well, and as I grow, we'll be involved in bigger projects, and it'd be good to be able to manage all that because I've been consulting now for 11 years now, and if somebody came to me and said, like, how do you run a requirements gathering workshop? I'd be like, you just do it, you just go in and do it.
Just go in and gather the requirements.
That's quite hard to. You just go and do it, and so like you've got juniors and stuff under you now, and again, going forward, I'm going to have juniors under me and other team members who are not comfortable in these situations, and I mean that's what when I was doing my training, that's kind of what it was. It was like shadow him, do what he does. And then you just do it, and you just go, and that's it. 10 years later, you just go in and get requirements, run a wee workshop. And so I thought, I need to get actually nail this, and I suppose that's going to set, because that's what will set your company apart from the rest, and your work set aside from the rest, because you're selling the human element again, you're understanding properly what you need. And so I think the best way to kind of do that is the user story mapping things, and just because I've spoke to other people about it, and I've used user stories for quite a while, but not recently, not formally, because I've been using them. Again, I've always been on the side where you do workshops and you gather user requirements, but you don't really understand what they mean. And you don't. I don't know. For me, I don't really think about it. I just couldn't do it, and it seems to work out sometimes. So I thought, right, I need to focus on that. So I split my time between the technical stuff and user story stuff. And for requirements gathering, requirements management, I thought I'd look at Azure DevOps because I'm familiar with the tool. We used it in Chorus, my previous company, for 4 years. It was called VSTS at the time. Yeah. And I thought, let's check this Azure DevOps stuff out. And I was like, this is VSTS, this is Visual Team Server. I was like, I know this. And it's a great way of just managing user requirements. And so I'm trying to kind of get that adopted within my current company. And also get to be a master myself. And because I've always used it, I've never administered it before. And as a kind of administrator, I thought so this session quite good. I'll bring in a bit of user story, show you how the boards work, because I know we've talked about ALM and stuff like that, but how the boards work within Azure DevOps and some of the wee customizations I'm making to try and bring it in and get it adopted within my system. Because like I said, we've got juniors and things there, and they're not familiar with what a user story is. Although I've not been using them frequently as much recently, I plan on using them going forward, and I've used them in the past, so I know what they are, I know how they benefit solutions, and so try and kind of introduce them to that terminology slowly.
What is the Microsoft kind of approach now? They've got a kind of training thing now.
Catalyst.
Catalyst
is the design thinking stuff. So that's another thing I'm big on now is design thinking. I think that's just cracking, especially
I think it's excellent,
agile working environments. I think it's really good. I did put a thing out a while ago actually, because there's a company, I can't remember what it's called now, I'll find it out, who run free design thinking courses. They work with third sector and things like that, and it's about solving problems everywhere in general and thinking like that. It's about putting yourself into the customer or the users or the person that's speaking to them. They do free courses every like 3 months, and then Ideal, that's the name. Their book and they've got a travel pack of flashcards as well with activities on them.
Nice.
They're beautiful. These flashcards, I put them on my Amazon list and say somebody getting them for Christmas. They're a good free book that's in PDF, but I actually bought the hard copy as well. And
I think it's important. Like I think as a consultant, like you've almost got to have like a kind of business analyst type mindset, like to try and understand how their business processes work and how you can then incorporate them into your solution. And so, like design thinking and the Microsoft Catalyst stuff really helps with that.
So, is Catalyst an evolution of SureStep, like that kind of program in the past?
It's completely different. It's Microsoft. There was two guys, I think. Mark Smith did a really good podcast with the two guys that were recruited for it, and they brought it into Microsoft, and Microsoft used it internally first, all the design thinking, and it was successful. So now they're starting to push it out to partners to train partners on it, and they've got a Catalyst team and things like that now. But it's really interesting stuff.
It's really good, Reece. You should have a look at it from a partner perspective.
Cool.
Ideal. So I registered on the course. I was going to be doing it, but then I got invited to some group that was running to do training sessions.
Some stupid
so I
group.
didn't have time to do some. I think they're called.
Funny that.
They're virtual.
What would they be called?
They're virtual anyway. What's it virtual? I just did it. I actually put it as before lockdown because it's better done in person. It's better done with small workshops, and that was one of my ideas, was to run not so much design thinking workshops within the local area, but good business BA workshops. So not just for Dynamics people, but for other industries who want to solve problems. And I think that's something that's quite lacking, particularly in our industry, because you just kind of get thrown into building and techie stuff. You don't think about all the soft skills and the communication skills that go with it.
I think the challenge is that a lot of people just immediately solutionize. Go, oh, you mean of course it's this thing that exists already in this application that I've seen. And it's like, no, don't do that. Actually listen.
Yeah.
But I think we all do it a little bit.
Yeah, I've done it loads of times. Like, yeah, I mean, you think Dynamics for sales, go for it.
Of course, let's start with that, and then let's put pastashells around the outside and glitter glue, and let's hope that it'll maybe meet your requirements. Where actually, maybe if you started from zero and you built up, you would be in a better place.
Neil Benson said a good thing at the Scottish Summit in his session, and I'm going to mention his name a lot in this because I've had a lot of input from his content.
Is this a good time to discuss the just because you mentioned Scottish Summit, like what do you think about the reality of summits and events coming back?
Oh, physical events.
Smiling right now.
I'm not even going to do it. Carry on.
I'm not saying a word. There's an announcement. If you go to the next open forum, there's an announcement to be made by the Virtual Power Group.
Yes, at the Virtual Power Group on Tuesday, you will learn some pretty cool stuff about what is happening, in person or not, in Scotland.
Alrighty.
There you go.
I mean, I think that, like, obviously, I would much prefer things, real life things to happen.
I'd like to be allowed out of my house. I think that's where I'm at. I don't even care what I have to go. I'll go and learn like paper mache if I can get out of my house.
I mean, this point is coming up really. I'm bringing it up because of listening to Mark Smith and Steve Murdew talking about the kind of global conferences and how they will look. And I definitely think that regional things will happen, but I don't think that people will be flying all over the world anymore to go to events.
Again, bringing the wrestling as I always do. It's going to be like a WrestleMania party. So every year, every wrestling fan in the world watches WrestleMania. You all get together where you are and watch WrestleMania. Some people fly over now and again, but you have these WrestleMania.
I went to New York for WrestleMania once.
All over the world, there's WrestleMania parties, and there'll be like viewing gatherings where you gather locally.
Viewing parties. So you would meet up with your mates in potentially a bar or someone's house, and you would watch it. Like I feel about Drag Race. Is that what's happening here?
You're a Drag Race fan?
Yeah, okay. So me and Drag Race and you in WrestleMania. That's what's just happened here.
Okay,
cool.
So really, it's the same show-ish.
So every year, there's the big three: Royal Rumble, WrestleMania and Survivor Series, you get together because there's not a huge amount of wrestling fans, but there's enough to fill a building. You get together and you watch it on a big screen and you have a great time. And see for like MBAS and things like all these big conferences, you'll get together in say London or Glasgow as a group and you'll watch them together and have a bit of a party and watch them. And so there'll be the social interaction thing, but it'll be on a stream. And that's where I see it going.
That sounds like a plan. I like that.
No, I think that's
it's a drag race model to me. So
drag race
whatever.
model, the WrestleMania model, whatever you want to call it.
But I still think there will be kind of local events. Like
I think that's going to be a hybrid kind of thing. Those global events like Build and MBAS and these other big Microsoft events, they're going to
massive ones.
They're going to go ahead, and I think what it's going to be is you're going to have an exclusive networking event where you will still, as an executive, pay to go and meet other executives and other movers and shakers. But I think that they're going to really embrace that virtual side of where a lot more of the sessions will be live because they've proven they can do it. And I think it'll be difficult to not do that in future.
One of the things that Mark and Steve spoke about was like effectively all that Microsoft care about is having fucking eyeballs on their product.
Yep.
So if they don't need to pay the sums of money that they need to put on these events and get 10 times the amount of people looking at their product, like why would they? Like,
but I think what Reece is saying is that they can pay a similar amount to run it, be paid for that by those who want to be there for exactly that reason, because it's exclusive, because it's face-to-face, because it's that elite sort of high tier set of individuals. And then us idiots are just going to turn up for nothing. We get to see it anyway. So their numbers are huge.
Yeah.
But everything's covered by those people who go.
They're definitely going to keep that sort of partner networking element because that's a big part of the ecosystem. Because that as a partner, you get certain levels of certain tiers as they are now in many programs of partner where you get direct access to Microsoft and the ability to go and meet program managers on a regular basis and influence what Microsoft is doing. That is best in person, socializing at events, and they will still build that, I suspect, around these big events. But I think the big events as a way to go and watch sessions and workshops, I think that's now going away. I think that it is about the eyeballs. At that point, you're getting us techies looking at it going, there's no way my company is going to pay $1,500 for me to go every single year. Maybe once as a bonus, I might get to go in 5 years' time. But the fact that I can actually now watch these movers and shakers live, that I don't see them getting rid of that.
But even if you're looking at Scottish Summit, like I tweeted John Levesque after Scottish Summit and said, thank you very much for your speech and it was really good, blah, blah, blah. Then there was a wee Twitter fight that I was like, I didn't instigate.
I'm not going to comment on it.
What?
But anyway, John Levesque sent me a direct message saying, don't listen to this person, keep doing what you're doing, blah, blah. And so he's quite an influential, is that even
That's the one, yeah.
Influential
it's not quite,
person.
but it's close, aye.
It's better than my solution envisaged.
and like he's sending a direct message to me saying, just because I thanked him for being at Scottish Summit, and like that's kind of an amazing thing as well, like, isn't it? Like these people who
he is amazing though. He's very, very good at that kind of thing, and it's good to see that. I mean, there are a bunch of,
less nice.
Yeah, there's definitely a bunch of dickheads in the community, but again, it's what we were talking about before. Everyone's different. I mean, you get developers trying to develop together. They're not always going to mesh, and definitely in a community that's global, there's going to be a few bad apples. So it's
but, I would rather be in the kind of camp of like I want to help people. I want to do something. Like, I'm not entirely convinced that what I do is of value, but somebody might think it, and so I'm going to do something. And like, I think there's lots of people like that who, like, they don't want to produce content because they're like, oh well, lots of people have done it before. But somebody might find like a tiny morsel that is exactly what they're looking for. So just fucking do it.
The one thing I would say is this: the bad apples metaphor. The reason the bad apples metaphor exists is because bad apples literally make good apples go off. So if you've got a couple of bad apples in your barrel of good apples, the good apples go to shit. Like the reason that bad apples are bad is because they will spoil it for everyone. So for every single person who has anything to do with this community and anything to do with anyone else, be they new or not, be they John Levesque or not, is every single one of our responsibility to make sure that we are looking out for every other person who ever steps a foot, like a toe outside of their comfort zone, that we never shut them down, we never belittle them, we never make them feel less than, and that we always acknowledge that people are working hard and trying to do something. Like, otherwise, an apple ruin it for everyone.
Effectively, everybody just, like, who's asking for help, like everybody's been there before, you know, like, so don't be like,
If every blog is of value because at some point somewhere behind you there's someone who doesn't know what you know, and there's someone 3 steps ahead of you, you're going to have to ask.
Exactly.
We all need one another for this, and so whether you are beautiful. That level or not, you need to look out for every other person in here.
I 100% agree, even though you and your solutions can get to fuck.
You say that now, right? You say that now until in 3 steps, SharePoint becomes solution aware, and you are begging for our help.
No, we've got lists
Why
coming.
is it not going in? We don't know.
Me and Paddy have had this conversation, or this debate, shall we call it that, before, and I 100% agree that solutions are brilliant. I just don't understand them that well, and so they can go and die.
Mazzy, would there be an event where John could learn about solutions?
Hang on a minute.
Learn.microsoft.com.
Shut up, Reece.
That's literally what I'm going to do. Just there you go. Read it. Read it and do it. That's the authority.
Read this, cry a little bit, and then test, as Reece has done this evening, and see if it actually works like that anymore, because you never know.
It's exactly.
I'm sure that was a question on my first interview as a consultant, as a proper consultant for a Microsoft partner. So I'd done some deployments, like just plain as you do. Your first deployments are always just plain. And I'd done a few implementations, and I went to an interview for that was a consultant. It wasn't even a junior consultant; it was a consultant. And they were like, "What do you think about solutions?" Because CRM 2011 had just come out, and I was like, "Oh, that nightmare." And they were like, "Yep, you're hired."
You know enough. Nice.
Like, oh, no, nightmare. And then they're like, I know. That was Joe Abbott, actually. He was in the interview. No, nice. Joe was my first manager.
Joe was your first manager? I remember you saying this now. Yeah.
And so I got interviewed for Chorus, which was, he was the head consultant at the time. And he was on holiday and they interviewed me. I had literally no experience at all. I'd done 2 implementations.
Holiday? He's this guy.
And well, I came back and I said, I heard they've got this new guy called Barry started. And he was like, what? What?
Who?
He thought he'd been replaced. And so he came in all like, who's this Paddy guy starting?
Hi.
I was like, here, I don't know anything.
Please
nice
teach
intro
me.
To the team.
It was really good fun, actually. It was good laugh.
So I met Dave Burrell, who community people will know, and opinions aside, right? Dave once said to me, "I must have been on holiday when they interviewed you."
He's got such a way with words.
Right, cheers, Dave. Not that I'm holding that against him at any point. Feel free to comment, Dave.
Like,
Listen, Dave.
I know we're smashing up Paddy's demo time.
We are, I remember. Mine's how bad was going to demo.
Claire's just trying to sometimes just break the record for.
But I think that the last time that you were on, Claire, Paddy told me that you'd been a consultant for like 2 years or something, or
partner side 2 years.
I was like, fucking hell, man, she's fucking amazing, and so that must be like inspirational to other people in the community.
Oh hell yeah! I'm not that smart. It's totally doable.
I never said that. I just said
totally doable.
I just said that you've only been doing it for 2 years, and here, you're involved in the Virtual Power Group that Paddy's going to talk about solutions on.
Yep, that's the one. Good work, John.
But that's amazing, man. I think that lots of people should be kind of getting involved in this now.
It's worth saying that everyone is slightly different. I mean, some people are definitely more outgoing and involved than others. Like I've only been doing this since I met Claire and Mark at Dublin 2018, so a couple of years ago. Yeah, exactly. So I randomly, basically, I was looking at something like this in Scotland for a year and a bit before that, and I hadn't even realized that there were people outside of my little circle in Edinburgh. I mean, that's how stupidly. I mean, I knew there must have been other people, but I wasn't thinking about. I wasn't thinking about it, and then all of a sudden, I saw I think it was a tweet from Mark about the Dublin event, and I was like, oh, there's other people doing this in Scotland. And so I beelined to Mark, and it happened to be that Mark, Ian, and Claire were hovering around, and so that's how I got involved, and then got involved in the Scottish Summit from there, and so some people are naturally like that. I will go up to people and do that. If I have an interest, I will go over and be like, hi, I'm interested, hi. But there's a lot of other people.
I think it's important to talk about the fact that some people aren't like that.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And that's all right as well. And so, if you meet someone, or if you go to an event, or if you or you're terrified to tweet someone, or just fucking do it. They're just fucking people.
They're just people, but also, as much as Reece, you came up to us, right? So you came over and you spoke to us. The reason you were able to do that is because people like Mark are able to just stand in an empty room with their hand up and go, yes. I am here.
Yeah.
I exist. I am here, and you can talk to me whenever you want. Yeah. And so every single one of us needs to make enough noise to say, look, I'm here. And it's that kind of like lighthouse vibe where you're going, I'm here. So if you are stuck, if you are whatever, I do exist, and you can tweet me.
And I'll do I'll do whatever's in my power to help you.
And if I can't help you, I know someone who can.
Yep.
And that's how you build the community. I mean, that's exactly what John was talking about, John Levesque at Summit. He was talking about building that community and being that pillar, being that one that goes forward and says, you know what, here we are. This is what we're standing for. This is, you are the people. There are people that will go out and they will make the waves. They will go and make the big splash, and then everyone else sees that and is like, there's other people, excellent. So now I can do stuff. And so as long as you are welcoming enough, like Mark is, like Claire is, like I'm hoping to be, then you can bring other people along that might not. They're a bit more introverted, but like there's a great book called Quiet from Susan Cain talking about introverts. The world needs introverts, probably more than extroverts.
We need them more than anyone else. You know, not everyone needs to be loud.
Yeah,
absolutely.
And
it helps bring quiet people together.
Yes, it does. But to the point of the imposter syndrome that John, you were talking about there, about the blogging as well. That's something that I know a lot of people will be like, I'd like to blog about this topic, but actually I've seen other people do that, and what am I really going to add? And I would always encourage people to just blog. I mean, again, John, you mentioned it earlier in the call as well. A lot of it is for your own learning, your own notes.
Absolutely.
I mean, do it for yourself. If you would be interested in looking at it again, then someone else will. And even if you are doing something on the same topic as someone else, you might have a different spin. You might have a different way of looking at it.
You might have that wee nugget or that wee step that the other person thought was, well, everybody knows that.
Yeah.
So
Yeah,
I won't include that.
But also the platform changes so quickly.
Exactly.
That actually, as much as that 2019 blog might be amazing, it might not work now.
That's
I'm going to go out on a limb, and I'm going to say though that if there was an online virtual community where you could share that blog content,
is there such a thing?
In a format where actually you could go, look, I like this, I put this together. Could we review it as a forum or as an online group of sorts?
What do you think?
Then maybe we could help you get that to a place where you are confident enough to publish it without it going to the world first.
I think that's a great thing. Like I was
a virtual power group, if you would.
A virtual power group. No, it would never work.
Never take off.
Oh, this is making me think of the Mark and Ian podcast that we took over.
No, like me and Paddy were both on the Mark Smith's thing. Mentor challenging,
of course.
And as part of that, I was saying like there was loads of people who were really interested in presenting, and I was like, why don't we make a wee group that you present to us first? You know, like you
no
do that, and then all of a sudden, I told Paddy, and then the virtual power group. I don't know. Maybe it's a coincidence.
So maybe if you came along on Tuesday, there'd be some announcements about some stuff, but like that.
You
just maybe.
Bastard.
Oh yeah.
After all
we've
been
the good
through.
Ideas.
But that's amazing. That is exactly what I want. Like, let's like. And I'm going to. Can I invite people? Am I allowed to invite people?
Absolutely, you can invite people. There's a URL which I believe is virtualpowergroup.co.uk/join.
Okay, hang on a minute. I need
to think we'd set this up, hadn't you?
We didn't. Drunk Claire rocked up at an event, ruined it. It's done nothing
enhanced.
But see, like this is that. But the thing is, it's important. Like. To try and get people who like they're doing stuff, but they're a wee bit scared to. So let's give them a safe environment to present it, and then get feedback and like not like really shut them down or like just give them.
Just be really clear. John was not prepped for this.
Absolutely.
You are so on script, which is phenomenal.
I cannot believe you bastards have stole my idea.
It's amazing. We didn't steal it. We've just all had the same idea.
And that isn't that beautiful? So yeah, I'll definitely invite those people then because I didn't get around to doing it. So
do it. Bring them in. We'll all do it together.
Yeah, perfect.
If you bring them into the next session, that's when the big announcement's going to be, and all details will be revealed then.
Okay.
So the next session is Tuesday, the 16th.
It is
8 p.m. British summertime. So it doesn't matter for international.
This is turning into like an advert.
A wee bit, aye.
This is what I don't know.
Anyway,
yeah. But can't help it. It's good that you've got to talk about the good things that happen in the community.
Right.
And the best thing that's happening in the community right now
is
what is
all...
it, Reece?
The virtual power group.
Yeah, right answer.
I was like, wait a minute, is this a trick question?
You know what? I'll be honest, as a SharePoint guy, you're all a wee bit cliquey.
Anyway, move on.
Back to DevOps.
DevOps, right? Where was it? Neil Benson's Scottish Summit.
Neil Benson's Scottish Summit. User
scenarios. Can't remember what I was going. User case scenarios. Can't remember where I was going with that. I'll crack right into Azure DevOps. And I'll show you what I've been doing. So I'm putting something in place basically to manage not just my own stuff, but everybody else's stuff. And I'm doing some trial runs with it. So this is a bit of a screen 1 and 2 are I've changed numbers, so I'm seeing screen 2. Where's my WhatsApp? Let's put that away.
WhatsApp.
Hello.
Dear Claire, I think you're what? Was that not the other guy who was trying to send you a chat line?
That's the one now.
Sorry, it's recorded for posterity now.
That's my OneNote, not OneNote. Where are we?
Oh yeah, Paddy showed you OneNote once.
There's Reece.
Hey.
or the reasons. Yeah.
That
Did Claire
is
see that? Flying the colour.
weird.
Flying the colours.
Love it.
I fly in the colour. So,
Very on brand. Good one.
Paddy, mind you showed your OneNote about all the reasons why you hated your job.
No.
Oh no, sorry, that was a different Paddy.
Yeah, there was two lists I showed. Pros and cons. It was pros and cons.
Ah, that's it.
Just
That's
the-
a reasonably balanced approach to hating something.
Oh, this isn't even the right screen.
I don't even remember there was a pros, but that's up to you.
It's just off screen, John.
So, Azure DevOps. And did any of you use DevOps for requirements management, requirements gathering, etc.?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Always do.
Yep.
I'm trying.
I don't even know
to
what you're
get
talking
people
about.
to adopt it.
Well, I was going to ask John, does this kind of user story process? I'm trying not to sound dead smug and annoying. Does this user story process work in a SharePoint environment or like in a SharePoint implementation?
Like we've started using DevOps to deploy mostly like our products, our SharePoint type products that we've built, and we can say, okay, you need this, so we're going to deploy this part, and this
So
part.
from a deployment perspective, but
From a
not
deployment-
necessarily from I'm a finance person and so I need to be able to see a list of these things that do this stuff so that I can do my payroll,
We would
made
never
up a
do
random
that.
bunch of things.
We would never do that within the kind of DevOps.
You wouldn't. Right, okay, so let's watch this then, right? Let's watch Paddy walk us through this
Well,
bit,
that's
and
the
then we'll
thing.
talk about how you would do it and how it's different.
So, and a lot of people aren't familiar that even that DevOps can do this kind of stuff. So this is a kind of pilot project. I changed the name on it just to sort any NDAs and stuff out. And before you start slagging me off for my user stories, this has been imported from another system that other people use.
I would never
You might be
slag.
familiar with it. It's called Excel.
Love
Yeah.
Excel.
At
Yeah.
least it's not SharePoint.
That's true. Could be worse.
No, exactly. So this is my challenge is to show that again because we've got for my next one I run a pilot. Say I'm going to gather deployment requirements this way. This is the way I'm doing it. These are the results. These results are better than the ones.
Yep.
So that's my point. But in order to kind of get things on and get a bit used to it and stuff, re-familiarise myself with it as well. I've pulled in another list of stuff to do and kind of try to split it out into user stories, although they're like one line, not user stories. So I'll start off, and again, we're talking about boards and stuff now. That's not a user story, obviously. But you've got loads of user stories here, and let's go to board actually. So again, if you've not seen DevOps, you've got a kind of Kanban chart.
Yeah.
Kanban.
It's weird.
I watched one of the videos of the guy announcing the release of that particular functionality for Dynamics in Wave 1. I don't know if anyone's seen this video, and it's like Kanban. And it's the funniest pronunciation of a word that you thought you understood until that moment. Highly recommend. Wave 1 Kanban.
Yeah, it seems to be a long
for
word
ops
for some people, isn't
and
it?
activities.
Kanban.
Kanban.
I think that's actually the way it's said, though. I think
Yeah,
that's
it's
think so?
we're just going Kanban.
We said it
Kanban.
pure super Scottish. Kanban.
We've got the anglicized version because it's a Japanese thing that comes out of the lean, the Toyota method.
But would both of the A's be so long?
I'm just assuming because it's certainly
Probably
it's a
you're like,
Japanese
you're gonna know the
origin. So
Japanese one.
I'm just thinking karaoke. How do they say that? Because that's also very different. So
Good point. I'll
Yeah.
Google that in a minute.
I don't want to go down impressions route.
No, we don't know. We don't want to go there. We'll Google it in a minute.
Unprecedented. I hate that unprecedented times thing. I hate it.
oh jeez, it's everywhere.
Excuse
you
for
can't.
everything. So yeah, so Kanban boards, right? Now, for me, this is essential to managing requirements and projects. Some people disagree. No way. But yeah, so you've got your Kanban board there. I've not customized this too much. I've kept it pretty standard. There's some colours. So I've got amber. And I'll explain about these colours in a second. The first kind of customization I did was because you can put tags on these cards. And there's not all, even though I color code all cards and all tags, there's a few kind of key ones that I put as in blocked, appears in red, out of scope appears in yellow. And I also thought this integration one was quite relevant because it highlights that we need to talk to other teams to get by that. A lot of companies are quite siloed in their way, and developers sometimes work like that. So as a D365 developer, you do the 365, but then just leave the card and forget about it. No, you want to make that visible to, because customers can access this as well. And you want to make that visible to the customers and say there's integration there. Just highlight that and just let's pay a wee bit extra more attention to that, and something needs to be done on that. And to do that, I need to move the zoom heads out of the way. To kind of put the customization, again, these are only kind of minor customizations I've been putting on there. But the fact that it is customizable is one of the reasons that you should be using DevOps. And the customization interface is quite similar to what we're all familiar with. So you can click on settings and you can go down and you can click tag colors and you can customize the colors of your different tags. And the tags are these wee bits here. You can also go to styles, and that's where you can customize the card, and you can add quite a lot of styling rules there. You could go crazy, and sometimes I try and have to restrain myself from going crazy. How crazy? So you can make it coloured on any different field. You could make it nice coloured. So any field that's on that card, essentially. You could in theory have like a combination of values. So if it's a large set of story points, so it's a fairly high impact activity, and it's blocked, it's more angry red than just a low story point, and a sort of medium angry red. Absolutely. So when you click on colours,
show, Claire.
Why am I asking questions, John?
We're talking colours here, man. As I say, like you could go crazy on the colours. You can go as crazy as you want.
Also, welcome back.
So again,
I ran out of beer again.
I'm on my last can of the night, unfortunately.
Oh no!
Got a bottle of duck fast in my can.
I'm so proud. I mean, put it in the freezer. Put it in the freezer. It always makes it 1,000 times better.
I'm not sitting drinking that on.
Not on the internet. No, hurry up. One.
I can't even believe I mentioned that. Anyway, what was it? Right. So yeah, it was lockdown. I just grabbed something in an emergency, and that was the first thing that came to mind.
It's delicious.
So yeah,
anyone who says otherwise is lying.
So we've got tag colors, we've got styles. So the cards, again, you can add styles, and these are kind of like, and you can drag and drop these around as well. So if I put a block tag and an out scope tag, the block tag is the last one on the list, so that takes priority. Then yeah, so let's have a wee look at the columns as well. So by default, you have new, active, resolved, and closed, and you can split them out as well. So if I click settings, you can do columns. I've split active into you can change it to work in progress. Actually, let's talk about that first. So work in progress is this number here, because it's really made for agile. This board area, I've used the agile template when I started the project, and I bumped that right up to 100 because we're not doing Scrum or sprints or anything. We're trying to just introduce this gradually. There's not a big enough team to do Scrum, really. There's me and a couple of other business developers, so then and some juniors. So Scrum's not going to work on this project. And again, it's a pilot. So we're not using sprints. So we've just kind of said that I bumped that right up to 100 to say that 100 cards can be in here before there's any warning. And there's not going to be more than 100 cards on this bit of work. So that's set by the work in progress part. If you go to the active column, and I'll explain what these columns mean to me in a minute, and hence will mean to my team in a minute. You can split it into doing and done, and that's something that I always do, just because I want to see what people are working on, especially if I've got juniors on a team. You don't want to just move them into the active column. You want to say that that's actually in progress, because someone might come up against a blocker while it's in progress. I have to stop working on it, and you need to get visibility of that and pick it up. And then the definition of done is a really important bit, because the whole team needs to know exactly what done means, especially if you're splitting columns. Resolved, I do the same. I'll tell you how again, this is like Reece said earlier, DevOps is custom to your way, your working practices in your organization. Everybody's got their own processes and definition of DevOps, and even those definitions, they're fluid. They'll change literally per project, per week, per sprint. They'll change. So this is just my definition of what these columns are for. So I say these are brand new user stories with nothing done on them other than the requirements gathering stuff. Active and doing is cards that a developer's actually picked up and is going to start working on. Done is when a developer's finished and completes internal user testing. So the complete internal user testing is quite important, because that might change to your resolve column depending on your project and depending on your organization. And so once a list in the done column, a load of cards are in there, we would do a release, and it would go to the resolve column. Now, a release to UAT, that is, or a second dev environment, it wouldn't be released to production. And that's when it's with the client to start doing their UAT. And again, I'd expect my clients to have access to this. I'd maybe even expect I spoke to you about this on the virtual power group, the last open forum, funnily enough.
What's that, Paddy?
I as a client, I would prefer, if I was a customer, I'd want to own this and host this myself. That's different maybe if you're working for a partner. But then if I was a customer paying developers to develop a system, I'd be like, I'll have my DevOps, this is the way it works and this is the way you follow it. But that's my opinion.
I think it entirely depends on the size of the client.
But if you were the client, so you running a business in charge, you're a stakeholder, what would you prefer?
If I was a client, I'd be a nightmare whether I was hosting this or not. So whether I just had access to this or if I was hosting it, I'd be a nightmare. I'd be all over it. And I think the difference is being able to say as a partner
tonight, and she's
no, well, exactly. See, look, I'm not even inviting them a nightmare now. But I think key is about you as a partner going, look, here is all the information for you to pick holes in every goddamn thing we do. Here is every bit of evidence and every bit of information everywhere. We are giving you every opportunity at every stage to feedback, to pick holes, to challenge, to improve, and fundamentally to change our understanding to better suit what it is you're actually asking for. I don't think they need to pay for it for that. I don't think they need to spin it up. I don't think they need to own it. I think we need to go, we're going to do this for you because it's the best thing for the project. And therefore, you have room to be as engaged as you would like to be. The more engaged you are, the better this project will be for you. But we've done all the things.
Yep. No.
Maybe I'm just being a bit of a control freak and thinking that I would absolutely want to have this. And
I think that's key. So the clients out there who want to be that involved absolutely can be if you give them this. Those who don't can go, you showed me. And then after the fact can go, it's not what I wanted. We can go, well, here's all the fucking evidence as to how we showed you that you could change it and you didn't. So goodbye.
Do you not think that like there could again be some kind of hybrid where parts of this are I don't mean like you can just include parts of it, but like you could take parts of this that you present to the client and say like this is for you to produce your project. But you take parts of that and to show them and say, this is what we've done. Like they don't need to see the minutia. Like,
well, there's I'm going to shut up and let Paddy answer that question, but there's a couple of ways of doing that.
So what was the question?
You weren't listening, right? Well, there's two ways of doing it. You can either
colours.
So you can either host. So it has to live in an environment, right? So either you can host it, or you can say a prerequisite for our project is that you spin up one of these and you host it and you give us access to it in the same way that you give us access to your environment in order to create the environment and blah 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 and do all the things.
But who does this benefit? This
both.
Everybody.
It benefits both parties. If not equally, then it benefits the project, and it doesn't matter who it benefits because it benefits the project. If you're going to host it internally and then simply provide output to the customer, then you're right. You could comfortably say, look, here's what we produced. Bam. Here's the testing. Bam. Here's the test output. Bam. Here's the deployment output. Bam. And you can sort of produce documentation to provide to the client that you would be producing anyway. It's just we would be producing it in a more manual way. The true benefit comes into saying, we have created all of your requirements or your user stories like this, and now now you're invited into this process by saying, here are your user stories. Get your users to actually check that these are their real stories, and then immediately you've got feedback and commentary right
it's about
here.
The engagement. It's active engagement. The best ones are delivered with active engagement between you and the customer. By all means, you can do this as just a pure internal management of your team and delivery, and use it for reporting to your customer. It makes that process easier too. But the best ultimate adoption is bringing the customer in and to actually. They can take as much detail in the minutiae. They can care about the minutiae as much as they want or as little as they want, but it helps to have them there to interact in the process.
Yeah, I mean, you essentially want your product owner to be managing the backlog as well and prioritizing things live. Like if I go into this list and I've got an active, my dream product owner, my dream stakeholder is someday. When I go in every day, this order changes. Or at the start of each sprint, at least, it changes because the priorities change and the business requirements change. So you want them to
how much does this cost to
It's
customer?
Complicated. it's free up to 5 users, but then once you start, and there's artifacts as well, there's things you have to bolt onto it. Like I said, it's if it's a small team with a couple of stakeholders, a product owner, and a couple of devs, then it'd be free up to 5. But anything bigger than that, then you're bolting on user and subscriptions.
Okay.
But I don't know the prices off my head.
And that's one of the reasons why it becomes that kind of classic. Is this partner held?
Yeah.
Or is this customer held? And therefore we end up saying, well, you spin up this and we will access this as 3, 4, 5 of your 5 users, versus we have one anyway. We will spin up an extra 2 sets of licenses for 2 named individuals from your team to access your project within Azure DevOps.
Okay. Cool. So where was it? Let's see. So we're looking at these columns, and I've bumped the workload up because again, we're not doing sprints. We're building and releasing gradually, and again, expect the product backlog to to get bigger. It's going to get bigger as the project goes on, as we deliver more things. But when we get this column here, that's it ready for release. It's passed all the internal stuff, it's dev'd. Then we move over to resolved. That's with the client on their UAT. They're testing, and again, I expect them to move that over to done. And they'll have their own definition of done that's agreed with us when it meets their testing thing. When it's in done, then you would plan the release, and when it's released, it's closed off, it gets moved over to the closed column. So on these cards, you have different bits of information. You've got dev tasks, which are here. Again, you can just get visibility of them. And you've got story points. And I'll talk about story points a bit later when I look at the cards. If I look up at work items, I'll go in and I'll show you what these user stories consist of. And as I said, these are very much imported from an Excel spreadsheet, one-liners to just give a bit of information. It's a project obtained over from someone else. That's my slippery shoulders there.
There's a lot of caveats to this.
I like that.
Oh yeah, of course there is. Of course there is.
That's how this game works.
So we'll create a new user story just to have a look at what the form looks like. In this product, so I'll show that there. You've got this is like your work items. The work items, any kind of item within DevOps. So you've got different types of work item, bugs, features, feature kind of, and again in this, in my terminology, a feature is something that delivers impact to the business. User stories can exist on their own, but they can't exist underneath features because user stories might contribute to a feature. An epic is your overall goal, and you might have more than one epic. In this case, it's just managing implementing a customer service system, and that consists of different features and tasks. If we create a new user story, since that's what we're talking about, and I've actually put some default text in here because again,
that's cool.
Some user stories it's new to some of the team members. We've got juniors there; they might not understand the full meaning of what user story is. So I just put some default text in there so that they're following the correct format. If you just try and ingrain that in people, that's the kind of thing you're looking for. It doesn't need to be exactly like that, but that's the kind of the information you're looking for. It's as a user role, as a customer service agent, as a manager, I need to view.
So, just by the by, so in projects that we send out that as Microsoft Forms to say, tell me what you've got to do, and tell me things that you've got as a this guy. I've got to do this, and I want to do this. So we send that out right now as a Microsoft Forms thing.
So you've got like a single capture for a persona. So as an whoever, I can do X, Y, Z, Y, blah, 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 so that I can blah, 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 blah. And then you turn that one set of info into potentially multiple things you have to do. Cool.
Yep.
That was my weird bit because I couldn't figure out how you would do that because things don't move as much. I don't know how to explain that.
One thing is worth talking about here. I've not looked into it myself, but again, back to Neil Benson. He did an excellent podcast with Tricia Sinclair, who's the DevOps expert within the community that I know anyway.
Legend.
And
no offense, Reece.
The podcast,
right,
the podcast with Tricia Sinclair is brilliant. And again, I'm referring to that quite a bit. I must have listened to it 7 times because I always listen to it. Then I go, oh yeah, I need to get into this DevOps thing. Let's start doing things. Then something gets sidetracked. But that is a good, really good reference. But yeah, she mentions there's a flow connector, a Powerautomate connector as well for Azure DevOps, so you can hook it into Project for the Web or CDS, whatever you want. So you could potentially gather those user stories, John, in forms like you're doing, and actually start plugging it into DevOps to save you doing a bit of manual work. But
just to say, Taz or Trisha also works across for an organization that has sort of multiple different practices within it. So she's got her BC and her F&O and her sort of first party Dynamics application systems all running off of one DevOps platform.
Can I
So she's
say one thing?
she's really good for exactly that kind of thing.
Right, you said there something F&O and first party. See, I thought F&O was a first party app.
F&O is a first party app. It's just not a Dynamics first party app that we would typically use within a CE type space.
What does CE mean?
Customer engagement.
Okay.
Which, the terminology around all that is a bit odd, and
It's vague.
Yeah, the F&O is it's still a different platform. It's not actually built on Power Platform. That one is it? Because that's AX. So
okay. See,
yeah.
in my previous life, I was a Dynamics Nav consultant.
Right.
Well,
So,
and that's kind of what I mean. So Trisha works for a partner who will run BC or Nav and F&O and
right.
CE implementation system. So she's got one Azure DevOps structure that fits all of those external systems.
Mm-hmm.
So she's got a bit of internal shenanigans that she has to manage to make sure that this platform works for all of those requirements gatherings processes. So she's a really good resource for exactly that kind of thing, where if you do have SharePoint and Teams and potentially some CDS requirements all being gathered in one session, she's working on a platform that will allow you to do all of those things in a sort of fairly generic but also specific enough way to do those things. And that's why she's such an excellent resource on exactly that.
Mm-hmm.
What's her name?
Her name is I'll put her
I was just going to wait
in the thing because she's a legend. She's really good.
So again, I'm just scratching the surface here and putting something in for people to be new at it. By default, as soon as you create a user story, you get that. That's what I expect for you to get a user story. I suppose that gets back to training people to requirements gather. I'm like, I want user stories out of when this workshop that you go to, I want a list of something that looks like that you can fill that in as the product of that workshop. So you got your description, you got your acceptance criteria. These are out the box fields. I've just put a bit of customization into one of them. This is back from the podcast. Trisha said she always put a flag of the fit or the fit gap analysis. I've changed it. I've not just put fit or gap. I've put custom field. I've put fit, customization, custom or other. So a fit is in that it's a fit. The product does it out the box. Minimum testing required. Customization, there's maybe a bit of customization, but a kind of maybe probably a bit of workflow, flow. Custom is something that's like a plugin, like a C# plugin or something that's a custom workflow activity, or again some higher level than customization. And I kind of took this from the podcast that Trisha and Neil done and the Microsoft Learn material on the solution architect stuff. That again, I've kind of come up with my own variation. They said kind of you're looking for fits, customization and gaps, whereas I think just kind of put my own level in and think there's a difference for me. There's a difference between customization and custom code, and then there's something completely different, which is other, which maybe if someone can't fit any other categories, they put other. And again, that just kind of helps us see what kind of level testing and development is required for these. And I suppose you could put on color-coded cards for each of them as well, or we get assigned to different teams. I've called the next custom field Fibonacci points, and
love.
Well, and I'm looking for a better name for it. And again, so it's because it's not quite a Fibonacci sequence. So if you look at the values in it, it's not quite. It's a modified Fibonacci sequence.
That's because it should never go up to 2040.
No, I know it's not. That's what I mean. It's not a Fibonacci sequence.
No, I come back from what I initially said. That's not a Fibonacci points.
It's not. No, it's not at all. No, it's it's modified Fibonacci points. And again, this is coming from Neil Benson, who the way he described how one of the challenges, one of the most challenging things I find anyway as a consultant is to estimate things accurately. And we as humans Estimating time is difficult for us, but estimating size isn't. And so if we think of the biggest thing, and this isn't effort I'm talking about here, this is complexity. So the biggest thing in this project,
a Padanachi point.
Padanachi point is amazing. Let's do that.
That's it. Definitely.
So the biggest thing is 100. That's like the most complex thing on this project is 100.
Right.
So loads of integrations. Think about half of 100 and a bit less. That's 40. So I find that easier. And again, this is not just coming from me. This is coming from other people as well. Not just Neil. It's like half. So what's half of 100? Okay, that's half as complex as that. And it's easier to estimate that than say, oh, that's going to take 4 hours. That's going to take 2 hours. Or that's going to take 3 days.
I don't think you can call it a Fibonacci thing though.
No, I can't. No, that's what I'm saying.
Call it a Fibonacci or a.
So I would call it again. This is going to lead up to something. I would call it a user story point, which is the default for in DevOps. It's called a user. It's a story point, I think it is.
Story points.
But I didn't want to modify that field because I think that's quite a key field within Azure DevOps. I didn't want to make it. I don't want to get rid of it and make it a drop down. So what I've done, I've just hidden it. So when people are doing their estimates, they estimate how complex it is, and in the background, it automatically updates the story points based on the Fibonacci points.
Nice.
So it's just the naming. And I'll show you how to do that in a minute. I'll show you how to customize that and how to do the kind of workflow things. And so, and again, it's very, very CRM. If you've looked at the back of it,
he's a fucking CRM daft.
We are not. Microsoft are. We're slucky.
It's so out with solutions though. They feel a bit dirty.
Where the fuck solutions? Give me a solution.
Well, this isn't a solution. That goes against the grain.
I'm trying to learn here. This is fucking.
That's the 22nd. That's the 22nd of June, John. You're learning that.
So you choose how complex it is, and that helps when it comes to estimating it. Neil has a big estimating formula to do it. I don't quite get that formula. I can just say this is how complex the thing is. As a consultant, I'm not going to go into pricing and things like that and how much resources are cost. I'll tell you how many days or how much time it's going to take me to do, I think, or someone else to do. So this is complexity. It just helps getting that visibility of how complex a problem is.
And when you're estimating like this within DevOps, do you estimate for you, or do you estimate for someone else?
Yeah,
on the basis that you don't know who's doing the thing yet.
Yeah. So you have to bear that in mind as well. So again, for this, I'll be estimating for me. But if that's and that's where the complexity bit comes in, because rather than say this will take me a day, but it might take someone else 3 days, you're saying this is how complex it is. And again, with integrations and things like that, that's obviously going to have a higher rank.
Yeah.
And whoever's doing that resource plan or whoever's doing the costing should think, look at the resource plan, say, what resources have I got available? This would help if it's tied into Project for the Web or another system, another project management system. You can say, whoever's doing that plan, say, right, this is that complex. We've got a junior analyst.
Let's not put the junior on that one.
This is what Paddy thinks.
And if you are going to put a junior on it, bump it up. Put the time up. That a Fibonacci point is score of 60. Might take me 5 days. It might take someone else 10 days.
Yeah.
Who knows? But it depends on what resources you've got available at that time. And the only person that can answer that question is the project manager or the resource manager. And then whoever the costing comes off the back of that, and whether that's getting costed at a rate where, because juniors get charged at a cheaper rate than senior consultants.
Okay.
So we can say they're doing a 50% rate because he's a junior, he's going to have to stop and he's going to have to learn. So they're going to take that long to do it, and he's getting a 50%. This customer's not getting billed a full rate for that. So again, it just all leads up to that bigger view and that better understanding, I think. Again, I'm being clear, this is very much starting out and scratching the surface of how things, again, what I've learned from Neil and other resources, the way I foresee things going forward, and it helps me understand it a wee bit better as well.
Cool.
So that's going my my closing statement is what ideas you've got that we can do better, what ideas that are good. Well, you know, is this something familiar to you? I don't know, but this is what I'm doing, and it's similar to what we did in my last company, where we used user stories, but not the Fibonacci points. That is completely that's new.
I don't think you can call something a Fibonacci point.
Well,
when it's not.
Yeah, we don't do that, but we use Fibonacci. So we will use like 13579 for like proper day estimates.
Right.
We'll call it out as, is this a 1 day task or is it a 3 day task? Because actually people are more likely to acknowledge that something is not 1 day than they are to go, oh, it's like maybe a day and a bit.
Absolutely.
You're like, no, hang on, is it 1 or is it 3?
Yeah.
Because you can't choose in between.
Yeah, where we looked at it, it was very much relative complexity, and it was 1, 2, 3, 5. It was the Fibonacci up to 13. You weren't allowed to use 20. If you were using 20, the user story had to be broken down to smaller user stories.
Into smaller user stories, yeah.
13 essentially was a week. If you were putting 13 against something, that's like write a whole plugin to go and do something. So that's a whole week worth of development, and it was relative to that. So 13 generally was a whole week, and that's borderline. You want to break that down to another story,
well, yeah,
multiple user stories.
One big plugin like that shouldn't be one scenario. You would expect that more than one scenario, more than one input or more than one output is achieved by that effort.
That's where, again, I think, back to Reece's session where he was saying DevOps is it's specific to your organization or your practices. That can change. So again, I would say a user story.
Wrong is wrong, Paddy, and that's the wrong Fibonacci.
No, it's not.
Also,
no,
yeah, you're right.
But so a user story. I should be. I know you're saying breaking down into small user stories. I would say they user stories that would move at an epic. If something's going to take
that's a feature, mate.
Well, yeah, a feature,
and that's it. So literally, if it's not I'm a person, I need to do a thing, so I can do the thing, and it's just a thing that needs to happen in your build, it's a feature, and your feature is maybe like 20 days.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
That's the tough bit. That's where it gets really difficult.
See, if I had my own company, I'd want Claire to work for me.
Like work for you or run the company?
So that you're aware, I also speak to clients like this.
I wouldn't.
But you should speak to clients like this. Like,
just so that you know in advance.
Otherwise, how will they learn?
It's true.
It's one of those things. You just there's so much.
I'm the revolution when I'm in charge. Claire's going to work for me.
Anyway, so that's the kind of the point of this was to show small customizations can be done to this form dependent on your needs.
Sure.
As I said, these are my needs right now. This is the way I'm doing it. I'm sure we'll disagree, but this is the way it's happening. So there's another wee bit I want to say. So what you save your user story with the right format. Again, obviously that can be overwritten. You can comment on it. You can mention people in it. And once you save it, you can add tasks and other related items to it. And again, if you've not seen DevOps, I'm sure, or you're not using it. Have you used Jira before? Have you ever used Jira? Reece, you maybe used Jira?
Unfortunately, yes.
Yeah. I thought Jira was quite good as well.
No, it is. It's just I'm so used to DevOps that when I had to use Jira, it was just a bit jarring.
And then so you have tasks, and that's the work task that you have to do or development. And another, just the reason I brought this up is just another customization. If you put an original estimate on it, if you add into that estimate hours for that task, put 50, it automatically.
Oh, nice.
Task, just so that, and that's default value, so I can overwrite that.
Nice.
Oh, that is nice.
It's like a business rule, isn't it?
I like it.
But So yeah, so how's that done? How are the
It doesn't normally do that, John.
All right, okay.
Yeah,
okay.
no, it doesn't
Normally
do
it's
that.
really
Pain in the
annoying,
ass.
and you go, "Oh, there's 50 hours of this task. How
It's
many
still quite
remaining?"
annoying.
Even though I haven't done any, it's
You know-
still 0.
What's really annoying is that you can't calculate on it.
Yeah.
So if I put completed in, remaining should tell me.
In theory,
Yeah.
come down. Yeah, fair play. But
Um,
still, that's much better than it was.
But so they kind of customizations, like the custom stuff. I'll show you how to do that. And again, this is where I feel we get dirty doing this, because you literally
You'll tap
you-
off.
You
on
just
the-
change it.
you just change it on the fly, unless anybody knows any other way. of
I
doing
don't
it,
know
which
any
I
other
might-
way.
You change it on the fly.
So
And-
right, hang on. So just so we're clear, right? So what the changes you make, they're project specific,
No, not necessarily. No.
or they're
So
template specific.
they're
So
template specific.
any project
They would not. So it
that's
would
using this template will also be affected, or just this project.
That's one thing I haven't tried is make a change and then go to another template. I've made other projects from this template, and those changes carry on.
Ooh.
But I haven't looked at doing. That's why I haven't. Again, like I said, I'm only scratching the surface here.
No, I've never done anything. I'm not allowed.
Yeah,
So I don't know.
You've definitely got to be careful with that, because, and again, Trisha has actually talked about this. I've seen before where, yes, you're modifying the template, and the template, if that's used in other projects, those projects then inherit what you've changed because they're part of the template. And if you switch templates for a project,
Yeah.
then you lose. I think you lose data. You've got to be very careful.
I think you lose some data.
Yeah.
Because I was
it's one of
I was
those
too
things.
scared to do it, so I did like a clone of the I did
Yes.
like a clone of the template in order to use it for my project, so that I could change it, even though I wasn't actually sure I was going to change it, which actually meant that we had multiple of the same template, which felt really bad.
Yeah, I mean that's. I think that is the best practice, is that you have a template that is customized for your business. So if you, generally speaking,
Like
run
your
an agile
normal project.
exactly like your
Yeah.
default template, and that's what you would start a project with. And then if you need a customization for your customer, you then clone that to a customer specific version of that template. It does mean that you end up with a bunch of duplication, but that's the system we have, as I understand it.
This is absolutely giving me heebie-jeebies.
Yeah, it does to me as well, right? But to customize it,
And
You click here.
this is the best we've got.
Oh, it's wonderful.
this is pretty
Really good.
This is
This is why they're moving
This
to
is
GitHub.
amazing.
This is fantastic. So you click the
Why are we all terrified then?
Because none of us fully understand how it works,
All right,
Yeah,
okay. That
So,
and
look,
it's
I
not
can't-
what we're used to.
Yeah.
I know it's out with the solution territory. So as far as if anybody's watching live and knows of like a solution tool,
Babe, it's
Or-
half
or
11.
something
It's
like
half 11. It's half midnight.
half 12, it's 3 hours.
So-
Yeah, I need to go to
nobody's
sleep now.
watching that goes,
Right.
I know exactly what they're talking about.
Well, you've got Australia, you never know.
Oh, that's
Yeah.
no, fair play. The Southern Hemisphere might know
Yeah.
what we're talking about.
So
Just to confirm, this has been 3 hours, right?
3 hours.
Absolutely.
Yes. We said we weren't going to do it, but we have. So to
Claire.
customize the form, to customize
Claire
it,
on
you click-
our questions. All the questions.
So this will take you back to the first days when you start customizing CRM.
Oh my god, there's a
You
form
just
edit
click
button.
Customize,
Ah,
and you
beautiful.
do it.
Yes, just change it in live.
I bet there is a default solution in this. We just don't see
And
it.
again,
We just haven't seen it yet. Me, the three of us, giving it pure new underscore Padinachi sequence.
Sorry, John.
and someone out there's giving it. What are they doing?
that's why I'm putting a caveat in here to say this is just scratching the surface. So here's the form that you can
Nice.
customize. Have a look at the fields. It is as easy as clicking edit. You can choose where it goes. It's
Oh, I love it.
very CRM. You
And you can put your
value.
default value in it.
You put
Can we
default
change your
value
I
in
need
it.
to I can?
Ah, no, I like I need.
Really?
Or I want.
Yeah.
It's I want.
I want?
know.
No, I can.
Or can I just leave it?
This is the emphasis. This is
John's
backing
like,
up-
can this just be over?
backing up what Reece. This is all backing up what Reece said earlier. That DevOps is specific. You have to, and it's important for everybody to define that in an organization how it's going to work. You can't. Not one person can just say this is the way we're doing it. You need to get on board and decide this is how the company's doing it, or this is how we're doing it. Even at the project level, this is how we're doing it for this project.
Yeah.
Because that I want to, that all makes a difference and can be interpreted in different ways, especially in these unprecedented times. You've got a global pool of talent. It could mean different things. So you can choose default value, you can hit required. You can't change it obviously because it's that's a core field, and that's how you customize that field. The same with the fit gap stuff. You just click edit, and you can change that. That's a custom field. To add a new field, you literally click new field. You put what you want in there. And the story points thing. This is what I was getting to. So story point. It's back to that kind of thing. Back to the kind of CRM things where you're learning and you decide to pick a core field and rename it something or do something daft with it, and then you go, oh, why did I do that? That caused so many problems across the whole board. I don't feel comfortable just removing and getting rid of story points or making it a drop down or any of that nonsense. I'm keeping it and I'm just going to hide it for the forum. But it will automatically populate with the value of the Fibonacci points because the story points is quite popular. Nice. So that comes in a rule. So you've got these rules, which are essentially workflows.
Yay!
So you can say when a change is made to the value of Fibonacci points field, then copy the value of Fibonacci points to the story point field.
Love it.
And it's neater than workflows actually.
I was going to say, are the workflows the business rules? Is it happening right away?
It happens right away. It's client side, so it happens right away. It's really neat. And so that's your rules. So that's how you create that kind of automation of, and same with the effort. When you put effort in, it just goes, I'll show you the effort one as well at some point. And again, I modified the Agile one directly and it created a new template for me, just a random number, said that's the Agile one. I haven't looked at states yet, but I thought it was really interesting as well. And yeah, so that's modifying the form, and that's how it continue to use story points despite not declaring story points. And that's why I can't call that field story points because there's already a story point. So
what license do you need for this?
This is free. This is on my tenant. This isn't.
Okay.
This is, again, like I said, I'm running a pilot to show people this is a way it could be done. Hopefully, I'll get some good results out and say this is, look at the results on this compared to running off Excel or whatever, or smart sheets or whatever it is they're using.
Yeah. So the key within a project is that if you create your user scenarios here, then your user scenarios ideally become your test scenarios. Your test scenarios are then tied to your work items, i.e. any bugs or issues that come out of your testing. And then any resolutions to your test scenarios then come out into a deployment. So what you end up with is, if someone goes, this didn't happen, we can go, hang on, this didn't happen, but this didn't happen even though you said it wasn't supposed to happen, but it didn't happen because when we said it was supposed to happen at the beginning, you said, no, actually that doesn't happen. So you get your commentary on your requirement or your user scenario that then becomes your test scenario that then gets tested, and if it doesn't have the positive outcome, it has a work item. The work item then is, well, that's how it was designed. And so the whole point of having it in here is that all of those things are all in one place.
Yep.
You could almost say it's a 360-degree view of your project.
You could say that.
Yeah. So that's customizing the. I'll show you the task one. But again, so any customizations I make here, it saves it instantly. It's not like you have to save or publish or anything. I literally hit back and it's there.
It's just there.
I can't even seem to, like, there's no way of getting back to where I was without hitting back, which again we don't like doing in CRM territory or Dynamics territory.
So
But
what
yeah,
is
you just
this
make a change
based on?
I don't know. No idea.
Base?
Custom dev.
Yes,
It's pure
yes.
web.
This is just like pure web dev.
I'm assuming you've never looked at.
shenanigans.
I'm assuming you've not looked at the APIs in the background because
No,
oh my god, it is.
Why would we do
scary.
that?
Oh, we tried to at one point get the data out to actually be able to
No,
report.
why would you do that? No, because all of the things are all the same type and everything is like all the many to many.
Yeah, no,
Nothing is structured.
absolutely-
It's just a free for all.
and you have to use so many different APIs for it. So there's like an
Mm-mm.
API for work items across every project, and you have to get your project first, and then from the project you get the types, and then the work items, and then from there you have to find the custom fields if you've got custom fields, and it is a nightmare to string anything together with it.
Because it's so flexible when you use it that you know that it's going to be like, you know, when you try and get like a necklace out of a jewelry box, and it's like, oh, they're all joined together. I'll just not wear jewelry. It's that, but in data.
Yeah, well, the tags are a good example of that as well, where you would imagine tags kind of when you add a tag, suddenly a tag becomes a thing in the back end somehow. So you can say, show me all work items with this tag. Oh, no. It's stored as text. It is actually text that you have to query against.
So those rules that you set up, the rules that you set to color code the cards are tags contains this. So yeah, it's like a string.
Any tag
That makes sense. That
has that thing in it.
Mm-hmm.
Yep. Oh, it's the back end of this is a nightmare. I don't know how they managed to string together a beautiful web interface that actually seems to work.
Have you ever seen the back end of an embroidery? Feels like that.
Yeah. It seems to work. It seems to work really well though.
It does. They do a great job with it.
Glorious to look at.
So also just worth mentioning before I step onto tasks, you can link these to your repositories and pull requests. So you've got a user story linked to the pull request or branch that's related to. If you've got the repository hosted in Azure repos, then it'll link to that. You can also have a GitHub plugin which plugs in right to that, and it'll link to your pull request within GitHub. And that's why, again, we spoke about earlier, it looks like the GitHub way is the fact that they've introduced that in Microsoft own GitHub, it might be that GitHub might become more and more integrated into Azure repos as well. Tasks, I'll show you quickly the workflow, the rule that does tasks. Again, exact same, just straight into customize. And you have rules. And so, yeah, when a worker is created, they copy the value from original estimate to remaining work. And you've got a list of actions that you can do there. The other customization I made for boards is, if I go to backlogs, so it's just another view here. You can add custom columns in here, and it can tell you which features or user stories, if you change it to user stories, how much they're completed and what tasks they're completed by. And again, this might not be as relevant as Azure DevOps if you've got it plugged into Project for the Web, but since it's not, it's quite good that I can see that feature is 72% completed at a grand glance. And they're done, again, click column options. And you can add a column or you can add a roll-up column. And they've even got quick lists for you, which are already pre-configured popular roll-up columns. So count of tasks, count of bugs, or you can configure your own one. And when you configure your own one, like roll-up fields, calculate, you just put what you want to roll up and the field that you want to roll up. And that, the other thing I was to put, this isn't really board related, but I just wanted to point out, which I thought was really cool, is the fact that you can have a wiki running with it. So you can create a wiki page which links to a user story. So I can view what user story that wiki is in relation to. And you can embed links and stuff on it as well. So I use Microsoft Stream just to kind of put links on there. and embed links on it, so that that customer who has access to that can see the full description of that item, what user story it was raised in, and then how to do it in a wee video or whatever link you decide to use on it. And that was it really. The closing was really how much have you used that kind of stuff? How much customizations? How much more customization you do? Imagine the views and the queries are, there'll be loads of different. It's different again. It's different for each scenario, but imagine you customize them quite frequently. But if there's anything, any tips or hints that you can give me?
On the wiki, an interesting one is there's two different types of wikis. That might be something that trips someone up when they first create it, because when you go to a project and you create a wiki, you've got an option between the two. So there's one which is your project wiki, and the other one which is a wiki in code. And the one that is a wiki in code is totally different to the other wiki. So the one in code is effectively a markdown list of files that are managed and updated in source code. They're not actually editable with the same kind of functionality that you have with the project wiki. The project wiki has versioning, has a lot of those linking functionalities, whereas the repository type wiki doesn't. It's a weird one. So if you're doing a wiki for the project, so if I was creating something to say, I'm coming onto this project as a brand new person, then I want a project wiki. Because that way you can link it to those stories. You would have a list of these are your environments and so on and so forth. There are limitations, and I still need to dig further into it. I think you can only have one project wiki, but you can have multiple code wikis or repository wikis, whatever they're called, because the repository ones, I believe, are more about documenting the code that you're writing. So it becomes it is in source code alongside your code itself. So that's what it's designed for. Right. But it's something to call out, because when that's the first thing you see when you create a project. It's like, where do you want to start? And then a lot of people go, ooh, summary, and then ooh, wiki, and then it's like, create a wiki, and it gives you the options. So it's one of those ones that once you do the wrong one, it's like crap. So just worth calling out that there are differences on that when people do create absolutely. It.
Yeah, there's a lot of dashboards and things you can do as well. I haven't looked at them yet. Like I said, I've just put in kind of how, again, for my next project anyway, I'm going to gather my requirements in that way and put them into that format. And again, to have some sort of, it's so much better than, and we looked at so many other products that get pushed into so many products like Smart Sheets and all these other things. And
plus, Paddy's going to take his tap off in the next video. So. For everyone who's watching now,
anyway, so that's it. That's me. It's been a long one.
It's been a long one.
I love Reece saying, I don't want to stay past 11. I don't want to stay. Really.
I figured after taking so much time at the beginning, I thought, you know what, I'm just going to have to stick with it. Plus, I do get a lion in the morning. My wife has kindly said she's going to look after the baby. So
nice.
Although that said, the baby likes to wake up at 5:30 these days, so we'll see how that.
So let's kill this right now. Have a couple of beers, and then we can go. Done.
Class is done.
Well, thank you very much.
Thank you to anyone who has put up with this.
I mean, nobody's going to watch the whole thing.
No, they will, John. That's the problem.
Yeah, they do. Yeah.
Why is that a problem?
Because not now. Because right now we're going. It's Friday night. What insane people are watching this still? Please feel free to tell me off right now, live people. But later on, people will watch the whole thing because they've been asked to do something they don't know how to do. We've suggested that they can do it, and they'll skip
things up to say,
and they'll watch it now.
Skip that, see that.
Okay.
And we'll be like. And at this point, we have to go, well played. Human beings who made it to this point in the video.
And now you've
made it.
You've made it to the final challenge.
It's not like full on Crystal Maze. There's no positive outcome.
So just again off the cuff. Go home. The people who are viewing now, Think of a better name than Fibonacci points that I can remember.
He's like
Reece, what is your go home?
Padanacci?
No, not for my
Padanacci
one.
is pretty awesome.
Not for my one, but for your one. What is what's your go home? Give me feedback. Come on.
I'm not sure what the question is. As in the takeaway from
mine would be, how can you be that lighthouse? So in what way can you be that light on the rocks that says, I exist, and how can I make sure that you know that I exist so that you know to come and find me? To guide you somewhere that helps you on this journey that I don't know what your journey is, but how do I be that lighthouse?
I think that's an amazing thing. Like lots of people in the community know you, Claire, and so for you to say like I'm still fucking here and like come and get me, I think that's amazing, man. Like there's lots of people who don't really want that kind of thing. Like they just want to put out their stuff and say like, this is what I'm doing. I don't know. I mean that's generally how I feel. Like I don't know. Like fuck. What do you think? Yeah.
Aye.
That's amazing. So like lots of people know who you are. And lots of people want to kind of engage. And so I think it's amazing to say, like, here I am, I'm a fucking lighthouse.
Like, I don't, I'm not doing anything.
End on that, no.
No, but I still think that's really cool. Like that's what that is kind of how the community is. Like people are like, no matter who you are or no matter what you're trying to do, like somebody's been there, man.
Yep.
Like just ask and they'll tell you their story and then we'll figure it out together.
Yeah, definitely.
Right, thanks for joining us.
It's been fun.
I'll show you. It's been great fun. It's great fun. This is going live out
It's still
forever
live
on
to
YouTube.
human beings on YouTube.
It's into the ether that is the net.
And it's going to be there forever. So how good is that?
Well, forever until Google sells it or closes it, or
when COVID takes me. This will be there for my offspring.
So, thanks, Reece, for a deep dive into LLM. Thanks, John, for your awesome solution. It's an art of possible, or almost art of possible solution. It's a good background. It reminds me of my 20s. And thanks, Claire, for joining me.
Just turning up and doing nothing. You're welcome.
It's absolutely invaluable.
Well, I wouldn't say you've done nothing. I would say you like caused fights.
Yeah, I did. Yeah, it's my jam.
You know,
vigorous debate, not fights.
Sorry, me and my ways.
On that note, I'm gonna go and chill out.
Yeah, sleep. Oh.
Yep.
See you later.
Thank you
very much. Ciao. Bye.
This is not live anymore.
Good job.
Are you
Thanks
sure?
very much, Ken.